folks. Trailing by 5 are the Hoban Knights. They're looking at a 4th and 8. Got to get to the 10-yard line. Owens gonna throw end zone. It is not held on to. Incomplete.
Shut up and sit down.
And welcome to the state championship edition of the BlackSwarm podcast. Hank Pfeiffer with Rob Antonell. And I want to be honest, brother, I have no idea how to start this thing. There's just, so much shit we can get into. So I'm just going to punt it over to you, and hopefully you have an idea where you want to go with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually what you normally do, but I don't know where to go with this either. It's unprecedented. Obviously, we've never done one of these. We've never done an end-of-the-year podcast to begin with. So, I don't know exactly where to start, where to end, what to cover, what to leave out, but it was a hell of a year, right?
One hell of a year. 16-0. First on-field state championship number 25. Let's just, get into the game itself. Low-scoring game. A lot of people that weren't there didn't see it, complaining about it. But, there's two types of low-scoring games like that. There's bad offense and there's good defense. And I think, on that Thursday night, you saw two of the best defenses in the state going at it. So, I'll kick it back to you like we normally do, and thoughts on the game, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely two of the best defenses. We know what our defense is like, and then Hoban has a good defense as well. And, we've mentioned it 1,000 times that they usually do a pretty good job of trying to scheme up their defense against us. And, without watching any film whatsoever.
Not a lick.
I'm assuming that they probably did some stuff that was designed specifically for us. It's what they always do. It's what a lot of teams do. But they're one of the teams that can kind of just go toe-to-toe with us. So they can scheme things up specifically for us differently than how like a Warren or Mansfield would. Usually they throw junk at us just to confuse us, stuff that we're not prepared for. Hoban's probably doing stuff that they think really is the most advantageous way of defending us. So when you have a quality team like that, really well coached, you knew it was going to be a slugfest. I mean, we expected a low-scoring game going into it. I think there were a few times that, we left some opportunity on the table, and I'm sure there's plenty of, I'd say there's plays we want back, but we won the game. Who cares? So I think there were some opportunities where we could have, but at the same time, probably same for them, and that's what goes in high school football. You're not going to hit on 100% of your opportunities. There's always going to be either missed assignments, bad execution. You don't hit on everything in high school. That's the way it is. So, and then the great defenses capitalize on that. So, stellar performance by two great defenses, and it's not that I was like nervous per se, but it was like, come on, we need to get down there. We got to score points. We got to do something. Not that like I thought we were struggling, we were going to lose or anything, but you have to score a point to win. So like when it's stalemated at 0-0, you trust your defense, but your offense has to go down there and score. And we were able to go down there, get one lone score, and that's all it took.
Yeah, I brought it up in our last episode of stuff to look at, and it's when you have two great units, offense and defense, special teams is where like you can cut the hairs of these good teams, and both scores on either side came off of good special teams plays. They had a phenomenal punt, got it down on our own 1-yard line. We called, I'm pretty sure, just like wedge, which is essentially like the blocking scheme on QB sneak, except we did it from shotgun, where just everybody's down blocking and you want to take it up the middle, hit that first available inside gap. I don't know if like nothing was there. It was hard to see at the moment if nothing was there, but Owens kind of took it a little more outside, didn't hit it right up the hole of what you need to do in that situation. And, they made a great defensive play, tackle in the end zone for a sack. And then on the other side of that is we came in, blocked a punt, set up on their own 28-yard line, and, went down and scored. Who was it? Bond. He had a great quote on that play. He's the one that blocked the snap. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. He said, honestly, I just saw a mismatch. I knew it was going to happen before the play type of thing. I just refused to be blocked. And really I just have more questions on that. If he just refused to be blocked that play, why don't you just do that more often? Just line up, just every snap. I am going to choose not to be blocked this play. And don't let yourself be blocked.
Well, he said it was a mismatch that time.
That's
who was he lined up over?
That's just a great quote. Just like that, I am just going to choose not to be blocked this play, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, we go down, we finish the drive and get the 7 points, and that was the difference. Offensively, we did some different stuff. I really liked it with that exit motion from the fullback to get to a trips look on our quick tag screen. I am curious if we had any kind of the fake tag and go with kind of him with the fullback wheeling up and out off of that, but we just couldn't get to that type of play. Really, we couldn't get to any deep shots all night just because of their pass rush. And when you always talk about there's two things that are always going to break down and lose in football. It's just how long is it going to happen? That's pass protection and that's pass coverage. And I think when you go best versus best, offensive line versus defensive line, generally the defensive line is going to have that advantage. That's just kind of how football's going these days. When you have stud athletes that are linemen, you're going to put them on the defensive line, and then the rest of the fat bodies are going to offense. And that's not a slight to our offensive line. They've been phenomenal all year. It's just how football is nowadays. That statement is applicable to all levels everywhere. We did some other cool stuff I liked. Did a lot more zone plays than normal. And I think a lot of what Hoban was successful with was they were getting those run-throughs. They were shooting the gaps, getting in the backfield, disrupting the ball carrier. We did, we came out, we ran it a couple times with inside zone slice where you're line up the fullback on one side and then bring him across the formation to kick out the defensive end on the backside. And why that's cool and why it's not the first time we've done that against Hoban, but why it tends to be successful is because most of our run plays are going to where the fullback is either lined up or where he's going at. So bringing him across and taking him to the backside of the play, it's just a post-snap, not so much a misdirection, but it's breaking your own tendencies and giving the defense another picture to look at and something else to be worried about. A couple other things. I know we ran up in our regular 4-wide trip set and ran like a quarterback sweep to the trips. I think we stole that one from Avon. We did on the backside of our run plays, instead of running the hitch, it was more of like just a snap out is I think the general name for it. 3 hard vertical steps, then snap out towards the sideline. I saw that work a couple times against Hoban from various teams. So that's kind of the game planning, picking and choosing what works in your system and then what was successful against that team that you can put into your system. On their side of the ball, defensively, I think they played a little bit of single high, but when they were in their quarters look with their 2-high shell, all 11 defenders were like within 8 yards of the ball. I think that's the biggest game plan adjustment they made, to where we're all going to come up. You're not going to have time to throw the ball deep, so you're not going to have time to throw behind us, and we're all just going to rally and tackle. Couple other things was we went with a little bit of, misdirection with our heavy 2-back set. I remember after the McKinley game, I was giving Trox shit for it of, hey, when we go in this set, all you have to do is follow both backs. They're going to take exactly where the ball is. And he's like, don't worry, we got some shit. And there's a couple plays. One was the obviously it was a sack, sack safety wasn't great in the end zone, but a couple other ones where it was like just faking the sweep one way, quarterback run back the other. And I remember you talking to me in the stands at that time. It's like, well, why don't we read a guy? And Hoban has such good. They have the players that, okay, instead of either chasing the ball carrier or sitting for the quarterback, just mesh charge it, run right at the mesh.
Yeah, so that was one of my comments that I wanted to get to. Was it seemed like earlier in the game we were just kind of empty 6-man box, and we're just going to let Owens make a guy miss. You know, even if they get somebody through, if we don't block it up perfect, like Owens is going to break a tackle, he's going to get 10, 15 yards. You know, he's going to hit one. And then as the game went on, we started doing more of the jet motions and the fake handoffs, and they were just so good at attacking mesh points. Whether it was a read, whether it wasn't a read, it just seemed like that was not anywhere near as effective. So I know, you know, you start off with one thing and you're assuming Hoban's going to adjust, but like just from watching it in real time, it seemed like we went away from that concept and more to the motion concept, and it just seemed like it wasn't working at all, which it could have been an adjustment they made already. It could just be two different concepts. I don't know, but I wish I would have seen more of that just empty run, let Owens go make a man miss, screw mesh points, because they were good at it. You know, he got handed it off, guys right there. If he keeps it, guys right there. But then also to what you're saying is, yeah, we were talking about these fake handoffs and everything. And, you know, yeah, I think it's a pretty general question. I know it's high school, but it's like, why isn't it a read? You know, if you're going to do that, why not read it? I mean, is it just as simple as it's just too much work to teach reads to these kids for every play? Because if not, why not?
So with that, obviously the option reading defenders has its place in the game. We were very successful with that all year. With that, to my point earlier of when you have defenders that can muddy the read and make the quarterback hesitate for a split second or just make him wrong with whatever he does, obviously if that can shut it down as well.
Just tell him to pick the safe one. If you don't have a clean read, take the safer one. Whichever it is in this situation, take the safer one.
And as well, if you can find success with that, the defense, what you're telling them is they're getting to choose who the ball carrier is. And if I'm a defense and I'm looking at either Owens or Lennox or Gamble, and not to take away from either one of those two because they're both phenomenal players, I'm going to tell my defense I want the ball in the running back's hands.
Okay, well, wouldn't that be the read anyway?
What do you mean?
If you're saying you don't want the defense to pick for you,
yeah,
you want to be able to call it.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see how your point makes that point. I don't see how it goes together.
So you're letting the defense pick who the ball carrier.
Okay, so if they're taking away the QB run, then you probably should be doing the sweep anyway, right? Like if they're taking one away, what's the point of even doing a fake? Like,
so with the fake, you're giving eye candy to the defense to make them
but if they
hesitate a little bit.
All right, but if they are trained to go after the QB and let them do the jet sweep. You know what I'm saying? It's like if they are overplaying one, then why wouldn't you want to read it off of that? Like, oh, if they're overplaying the QB run on our jet sweep. Well, then jet sweep. It's like I think I'm diving too far into it, and the simple answer would have been it's too much work to have them read every play. But instead, you're saying, oh, you're letting the defense pick. Well, yeah, if you pick it ahead of time.
So with that, with read plays, obviously you're going to have a vaguely dangerous defender to the ball carrier unblocked. You want to block him up because Hoban has dudes. They have the horses.
You don't want to leave a guy unblocked.
Correct.
As the read key player. Okay, I'll accept that as an answer.
You don't want to leave him unblocked.
Okay, I'll take that.
And to go back earlier to your point of just the spread it out, empty, straight run, when the defense gets to see that a couple times, there's no eye candy they're looking at. It's literally just snap and follow him where he goes. They can play faster. And when they can play faster, they're more dangerous.
All right, so I guess
better at their job.
Okay. Now that I'm comprehending this, we weren't doing reads, but we also weren't leaving a guy unblocked. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So now I'm just upset that they had a guy in the backfield so often if we weren't leaving it unblocked. That was my whole point.
Okay.
It was like the guy is coming in and muddying it up. Why don't you just read it?
Well, so we were...
But they had just had a guy blow through, missed block. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
We were reading some, and it was straight called
It
runs
just
other
seemed like
plays.
we were letting a guy free and then still not reading it. And I'm like, why not?
That's what Hoban made difficult, is they were getting these run-throughs. They were winning the matchups up front consistently, and that's what made it hard on our offense all night.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll allow that.
Yeah.
If you want to run QB power, run a fake sweep just to hold somebody.
Yeah.
Got it.
You're giving them eye candy,
Got it.
and you're breaking your own tendencies. That's all you're trying to do there.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
It's,
From the stands, it looked like we were like running a read, and I'm like, why didn't he hand it off right there? You're like, it's not a read. I'm like, well, why not? Why isn't he reading that? Like, you're gonna let him come free? Read him. We weren't trying to let him come free. Gotcha.
Yeah, there are certain guys we weren't letting try to come free.
Okay, fair.
And I watched Hoban do that against Eds, against Avon, against whoever the hell else I watched. There was one other game, can't remember off the top of my head. They were really good at that of, when they play that 4-down stuff and it's attack react rather than the 3-down react attack. It's a lot more aggressive style of defense, and you're letting your horses go and just blow up plays like that. And it is what it is. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And in the moment, if I'm like looking, I'm more watching how the quarterback is handling the ball fake. Is he like riding it out with eyes on a guy, or is it like a quick little token, show it, and then tuck? And, some of the plays we were talking about, it was a quick little token and tuck, and oh yeah, there's a guy in the backfield. Yeah, he probably wasn't supposed to come free. He chose not to be blocked that play.
Fair enough.
But, other than that, our defense played absolutely lights out. They didn't...
Defense played great.
There's a couple... at least one, they were trying to go for the double pass. I think there might have been another time or two they were trying to get a little fancy with it. But I remember in the low red zone, they went for the double pass off the little end-around motion there. And, it wasn't there. Nobody bid on the play fake. They did exactly what they needed to do, not playing too aggressive, not overplaying what was in front of them, and doing their job, essentially. And, yeah, you saw it on Big Mike up the middle, had 3 or 4 bad snaps caused. That really... turning their 3rd and 2 into a 4th and 8, that saved the game right there. And I think that was Big Mike just beating that center's ass play after play after play.
Yeah, that was definitely huge. And then the crowd played a really big part. I know they had a big false start that hurt them at one point also. The defense was outstanding. It's, I hate to say what we expect from them, but it was just completely lights out. Didn't let Hoban score a point. That's amazing to see. I think for the year we averaged like 8 points a game, 7 points, something points per game, something like that. Just a historic defense, and I think it's been talked about a lot, but that was an absolutely historic defense all year long, and I hope people can really respect how good that defense was. They did their part. I was hoping for... all I cared about was getting the job done. I would have won the game. If we won the game 2-0, that's perfectly fine with me.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a slugfest. But there was times where our offense struggled a little bit, and obviously so did theirs. That's what happens when you play the 2 best defenses. But it was definitely some tense times in the stands, like waiting for it. We blocked that punt. We get the ball inside of like our own 30-ish yard line, somewhere right around the
28.
30, I think. And it's like, all right, now we have to put points on the board. 0-0, we have to score. This is our opportunity. Next thing you know, it's like 3rd and 12. We haven't gained a yard after that. It's like we just lost all momentum here. We needed to get down, score a point. We needed to, go get 5 yards and kick a field goal. That's all it takes to win the game. Is just go kick a field goal. And we lost yards. And it's like, this is our chance. We got the ball. We're inside the 30. We need points. We need a yard. We're going backwards. We're going the wrong way after the biggest play of the game. And it's like, this is so infuriating. And then luckily we get that huge face mask call. But that could have easily just have been a sack. And now it's 4th and 20 from your own 40-yard line or something, 35-yard line, 38. And they're like, now what do you do? Well, do you go for it on 4th and 20? You probably just try to punt and pin them deep, I guess. But
oh, if we had punted from our own 32
I know
line, I would have.
I mean, it's like that just horrible spot of like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna drop back and try to throw it 20 yards against this pass rush, or we're gonna try to. But it's like pinning them deep. It's like our defense is pretty good. I don't think you don't have to pin them deep, but it's at the same time, it's like it's 4th and 20. Like, your odds aren't really in your favor. So I guess you probably go for it. But like, luckily we get bailed out by that egregious face mask. Glad Owens was okay. But then we were able to go down. Their nose tackle was hurt. He was banged up, like just noticeably. That's the first thing I saw. I was like, oh, he's hurt. Like, that's not good for them. Great for us. Take advantage of it. And then we go down. We get inside of the 5, I think. And then nose tackle comes out of the game. Next play, we score. And, I mean, amazing. But it was just like, all night was just little things like that. Like, oh, shit, we just have to score 1 point. So once we got that one, I was okay. Because, like, all right, we got a 7-point lead. Like, at worst, something bad happens and it's tied.
Yeah.
But then we get pinned deep. And I know we don't do it, but by God, did me and 14,000 other people in the stands want us to just get under the frickin' center's ass and run. They had no timeouts left. QB sneak, 2 times, going to halftime, you're up 7-0. And I know you're going to sit here and argue and say, well, everything should work out the same from the shotgun. It's not actually as, the risk isn't as bad as the fans think it is. But just get under his ass and sneak the ball 2 times, going to halftime, up 7-0. Instead, yeah, okay, he didn't hit the right hole. He was probably looking to make a play rather than just get out of the end zone. But that's what high schoolers do. Get under center and just fucking tush push for 2 yards.
Listen, you think I'm going to make an argument against that. The only thing I'll say against that point is we got Owens as a senior. And the way, like talked about earlier, the way football is now is I guarantee he came up and never took a snap
all of our
under
quarterbacks
center.
come up from not under center, though. It's not just him.
Listen, I guarantee he never took a snap from under center in his life.
Okay, is that my fault?
No.
Is that his fault?
No.
We had him for 52. We had him for 48 weeks or something. You can teach a kid to take a snap under center.
Yes.
Again,
so
I know the whole argument is you don't need to. But
can I finish what I'm saying?
Finish your argument.
Okay. All I'm saying is he never took a snap from under center in his life, so it's like, why start now? However, I very much am in the same boat as you, is I want at least one goddamn under center play for the tush push. It's not that hard to teach. Listen, Trox, Kale, Moore, anyone, you can come and scream at me and tell me that, oh, it's too hard to teach. He's never done it. But I don't care. I played center my entire fucking life. Okay, you can teach a quarterback to come in under center, put his hands up in there, and just snap. The snap is easier. You're already up there for it. I am in the same boat as you. Give me that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have tried to do it like that game for the first time. I wouldn't have called timeout and say, hey, learn how to snap. But in the summer, throughout the year, like once or twice, do every other victory formation from under center. Just get a couple snaps in because, when it's 4th and inches, 4th and goal from the 3-inch line and you're having trouble, tush push. When you need to get out of your own end zone, tush push. Like they're trying to get rid of it because they're saying it's an unfair play. It can't be stopped. And then, all right, I think in high school you're not allowed to aid the runner. We got called for that earlier.
Yep.
But you can muddy it up. I mean, you can QB sneak for half a yard. It's just,
yeah.
God, it's just one of those things where it makes a much bigger deal to the fans than it does coaches everywhere. There's a reason why we're not the only team that doesn't do it. There's many teams that do not go under center no matter what.
Yeah, most.
and they're gonna pull out the analytics and stats and say, well, everything is the same. Like, he's going to be catching it coming downhill. Like, it doesn't make any difference. But there's a few old school holdouts that are saying, damn it, like, if you went under center and got sacked for a safety, like, we wouldn't feel as bad. Like, we wouldn't be talking about this right now if that happened. You guys go, shit, like, good defense front. Yeah, a good defense front. Instead, like, you're giving me a reason to bitch.
Now, the other thing I will say with that is if the only thing you do from under center is the QB sneak, then you're letting the defense way overplay that, and then you have to install another play to make them pay for it. I think it was...
or you can just QB sneak for half a yard. In this situation, all we had to do is not go... We didn't have to go forward. We just had to not go backwards. You know how hard it would be for that ref to come in and call a safety on a QB sneak from under center? He'd have to get blown backwards, reestablish himself as a runner, and then get hit.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not...
Because the ball, from the moment of possession, is in front of the goal line. His forward progress starts out of the end zone.
His forward progress starts at the center's ass, which was out of the
end zone.
Yeah.
Like, there's...
I'm not defending all shotgun all the time. I am not in that fan club. I'm just trying to look at all of the arguments and, just make this not make this entire segment a bit the
I
bitch
get
fest.
it. Because watching the Browns this year, there's been plenty of times where they've tried to do, 4th and 1, 4th and 2 QB sneaks. And a lot of the times they've been using Harrison Bryant, who's a tight end, and it worked a few times. He did fumble one time, which was horrible. But then they've started doing other things off of it. They do a pitch, they do a fake pitch, and you do have to have other stuff off of it. You can't just go up there. I mean, I guess the Eagles do. They just will tush push every single time. Doesn't matter. But that's when you're trying to gain yards. If you're just trying not to lose a yard, I feel like it's a pretty safe bet to just snap it in your quarterback's arms, who's already forward progress ahead of the, So I get it. But yes, if that's like your 4th and 1 play, you have to have variations off of it, 100%.
Yeah, that's all. It's I am a big under center proponent. As far as just the run game goes, it doesn't make a difference if you keep your back deep like we do. He's not right next to the quarterback. He's still got a head of steam. He's getting the ball at the same point he would.
I mean, that's still a big talking point, though. They're
well, a lot of people. They
talk about how it changes the running back's vision.
A lot of it
having that downhill, going towards the hole, being able to read things in front of you.
Yeah.
During that, whatever real time it is to take those steps, might be advantageous to a running back compared to going sideways to get a ball. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to argue any of that. My whole only point was like for a QB sneak.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of that. We're here now, and I kind of want to talk about it. So why not?
But there are a lot of people. When I was watching, I think it was Red Zone. But like they were talking about Derrick Henry and how much better he is like from under center, and the idea was that he can see what's in front of him while he's going to take the handoff. That whole period of going to take a handoff, he's able to see everything while getting the head of steam. And I mean, there's arguing points for all of it, but that was the one I never really heard of before. Was the being able to move forward and read stuff. Rather than, I mean, I guess like you're probably still looking where you're going anyway but I guess just the motion it was a talking point on an NFL game. I don't know.
So a lot of the talking points come from kind of your old school shotgun of running back is next to the quarterback, same level, 5 yards deep and behind the guard or in the B gap. And most of the run plays off that is the running back is crossing face, moving horizontal before he can get vertical. But if you look at how we've run power the last few years, the running backs like 6, 7, 8 yards deep, offset to one side. It's an offset pistol formation. And our base power, how we did it before Owens, was he's coming downhill, he's staying on the same side. He's taking a rhythm step and then getting the handoff coming downhill, whereas under center, it would be kind of a skip step to get to one side and then coming downhill. It's essentially the same operation. So there's no difference there. Now, how we've done it this year is he's going across face and going across the formation, which I think is not as good, But we're doing that because Owens is reading the backside, and you get that QB read element back into it, which, it protects everything else. And then as well, you're doing it from shotgun because of the RPO stuff, and it protects the entirety of the play itself as well, and you can get free yards where the defense wants to give it to you. Where I like under center is the hard play action stuff. If you can get on a boot or a straight play action drop back, you're really making those backers bite up on it a lot harder. However, when you have a running quarterback like Owens is, and your base play is QB read off the jet, you get those safeties sucked up because they're seeing that movement, and then you hit them with the double post for a touchdown, which we've done all year. There's ways to do it. That you run what fits your personnel, and I think it's kind of hard to argue against 16-0 in a state championship.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a running quarterback, it kind of like flips. Like, you'd rather have him in the shotgun.
Yeah.
Because now everything is moving forward. Everything's in front of him. The same idea. He can read stuff. He's downhill. He's not going backwards, then go forwards. I get all of that and wouldn't want to change the concept of our offense. I would just like to have one under center QB sneak play for very specific situations like that one.
Yeah. And there is the human factor in it, which, we like to talk about in football all the time, of you get a catastrophic play call, and then OC's just never going to call it again. Go back and look at, 2019, when we ran, long story short, the little pop RPO from the number 3 receiver in trips with going away from guard wrap, just like a light QB power type deal. And you're reading that backside backer. If he scrapes across with the guard pulling, you throw the pop. If he sits back, does anything, you hand it off, and you got 3, 4, 5 yards. We ran that 3 or 4 times against McKinley in 2019, up and down the field on him. 2020 against Eds, when we tried to run it against their bullshit double mug blitz look, interception that essentially lost the game, and then we've never seen that play again. With QB sneak, we run it in the playoffs in 2018. We were either at Hoover or Mansfield. I can't remember which one. Longwell gets hurt, and he's out the rest of the game. And then I don't think we've seen a QB sneak since then. So it's little stuff like that, of this catastrophic thing happens, and now we're probably not going to call it ever again.
Okay. I am very much a proponent of human nature, human play calling, human perception. 100%. This whole started because of perception. This is just fan perception.
Yes.
There are coaches that will come at me with so many figures saying it doesn't matter. But my perception says it does, damn it. All right? Sitting in the stands, it matters. Okay?
Like you said last week, this podcast is by fans for fans.
It's a perception thing. And that's how everything is. You watch just watching football games, watch a college game, watch NFL games. I've been listening to so many bad, God, Mark Sanchez is bad at announcing football games. Let me tell you. He had back-to-back Browns games. God, his actual, how he isn't bad. It's just he says stuff that's so stupid sometimes. And it's I know you're smart. You were an NFL quarterback, and you were very successful in college, and you had a NFL career. Mm-hmm. You're not dumb by any means. But then he'll say stuff, and it's how do you truly believe what you just said, but not? And I think part of it is that some announcers will watch a game on a screen, even though they're there in a booth. They watch on a screen, so they probably miss a few things. But I have to assume they're watching the same feed. I think they have a different feed, but it's he'll say stuff. But point is, these announcers will say things, and it's if you said that to the coach would call you the biggest idiot in the freaking world. But at that time, the announcers are fans. They might not be rooting for either team, but they're a fan. There's someone sitting there watching the game. And it's yeah, all right, Tony Romo might dive into things more. But, there's high-end NFL TV announcers that same thing. It's I was watching one where they're oh, I don't like when running out of the shotgun because the running back always has to cross the quarterback's face. You know where he's going every time. And it's well, I doubt that's true. I mean, you'd make a defense coordinator's life a hell of a lot easier if you did. I mean, maybe the concept was for him to be truly downhill, he has to go cross, but also it depends on how he lines up. I mean, that's the older style right next to him. Like, if he wants to go downhill, he has to go across. If not, it's kind of like more counteraction. But the fact is, like, they will say that on live TV to millions of people. Every time they line up in this, they run to the left. And it's like, well, if Romo says that, I give him a grain of salt. If anybody else says it, I'm like, you're an idiot.
Yep.
But that's perception. Like, if they're saying it, imagine what we're seeing in the stands. So, perception's a real thing to fans, but even to coaches. I mean, coaches will probably see that too. You know, how often do you think a coach looks for a tendency and finds one that's not actually there? You're sitting in the box trying to figure everything out. Like, oh, every time this guy comes in, they do this. And I'm sure you accidentally stumble upon some tendencies that are true when you do that. And then you also probably, like, think you're seeing a tendency and you're not. And I'm sure that good coaches are able to discern the difference. But, I mean, how often does that even happen? I mean, your perception is very real. You don't want to do something as it didn't work once or was really dangerous once. You don't want to go back to it. It could have been a fluke. Like, oh, yeah, Ed did the absolute most perfect thing to mess up that one play. We won't run it again. I mean, I'm sure that's probably not the reason we don't run it again, but maybe. I mean, maybe that was just too hard of a read if they mix their backers up. Like, it messes up the read. There's always tendencies and perceptions to everyone. You hope that your anyone's coaches can avoid stuff like that, understand what was a fluke, what's not a fluke. But yeah.
My favorite thing is when a kid screws up an assignment and everything works out. So now everyone's just sitting around scratching their heads trying to figure out what the hell just happened. The one big one I always go to is when Ohio State was playing Minnesota back in 21, I think. CJ Stroud's first start. And they went unbalanced left, line blocks mid, outside zone left, but running back took it and ran sweep right to the open side for a touchdown. And then all of football Twitter's like scratching their heads trying to, like, what happened? Like what kind of play call? Fucking amazing. It just worked out. And then, next day comes out running back's like, yeah, I just took it the wrong way. It's shit like that. And that's what, like you said, you see tendencies that aren't there. And that's what makes football, from a coaching, from a tendency standpoint, hard, but it's also what makes it fun, especially as a fan, because I don't have to sit there and figure out how to defend that bullshit.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's how a lot of cool things like are invented. Mm-hmm. Oh shit, maybe if we do, we do the full blocking left, the defense is going to read it that way, and we just bounce the other way. Yep. Just boot out of it. That's how fun things are created. It's like, oh, when, like the draw play, the Paul Brown draw play, that was an accident. They're like, oh, that worked out really well. Let's try to do that now. Like, let's delay the handoff and then run it, all because of an accident in practice.
That's how, I don't know if it was the midline or just the straight veer triple option was invented, was back at whatever school, I can't remember this one, but I can't remember the school, but the tackle kept just getting his ass kicked by the defensive lineman when they were trying to run like dive or something like that. And the head coach, just beyond frustrated, just yells at him, well, fuck it, don't block him. And then they run the same play. He goes unblocked, and the dive goes for like 20 yards. And the coaches look at each other like, huh. Well, that worked out nicely.
Yeah.
It's shit like that. It's like how, the RPO was invented. There's the Urban Meyer story of the guy ran a bubble instead of blocking, and the quarterback just like, I'll toss it out. Well, that worked. Or the Brett Favre of, the backside of a run, he just throws a quick slant on his own. Yeah. Look at that. It's just dumb shit like that. It's how these plays, get created and then proliferate, and then that's like the meta of football currently. RPOs, option, all this stuff. So,
you know what one of the oldest plays is?
What's that?
Under center QB sneak.
You teed that up perfectly, and I am actually disappointed in myself. I didn't see it coming.
Well, I'm assuming it's one of the oldest ones. It's pretty simple. Like,
Yeah. It seems like a big rugby play, and rugby is the sport football came from, so, create the scrum, push the pile.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. On the human element, though, what do you think of this take of the score being 7-2 rather than 7-0? Helped our defense play a little bit tighter and a little bit harder of, if it's 7-0, you feel like you can give up a score and still be good because it's tied and you have faith in your offense. Whereas 7-2 and you give up a score, you're losing.
I would like to say our defense was going to play the same either way. But there was definitely more tension with it being 7-2 because, yes, there's always a chance that they could have scored and went for 2 to make it 8-7 in the first scenario. But that's 2 scoring plays, whereas now 1 scoring play gives them the lead. So there's definitely more tension for me. I'm sure there was more tension on the team in general, but I'd like to believe that the defense would have played the same either way. But yeah, they may have been just mentally, trying a little harder because they know that 1 touchdown that's going to do it.
And I'm not saying that to say, our defense is out there playing loosey-goosey, half-assed when, they know they're in the lead. They play their asses off every single play. But it's just that human element in the back of your head that you're probably not even aware of you have that when you have a lot less wiggle room and when one play is the difference between winning and losing, of you are going to play a little bit tighter, a little bit more locked in, a little bit more focused than you would have otherwise.
Talking about the human element, the fake punt.
So that one.
Do we do that if it wasn't the poetic ending to beating them the way they beat us in 18?
What's weird is there'll be some...
Is that the reason we did it?
I don't think so. Because I remember in the stands thinking, and there's some times where it's like I'm watching, not just us, I've watched a lot of our football, and I feel like, of Massillon football, of this coaching staff, and I feel like I can kind of pick up when they want to do stuff and when they don't. In the same way, you play poker a lot with the same people, you pick up on their tendencies. And just in general in football, you kind of get an idea of when guys want to go for stuff and when they want to play it safe. And in my head, I thought, this would be a hell of a time for a fake punt.
It's one of those things where it's like, I thought it was a little early, as in we weren't far enough down the field. But that's kind of when you catch them off guard, right?
Yep.
I don't know if catching them off guard was the difference maker on that play. I think they just kind of outplayed us on it. Without rewatching it, I think they just had some dudes make a play.
They had dudes choose not to be blocked.
But my initial thought was we weren't quite far enough down the field. Another 10 yards, but, you catch them off guard, earlier than, if you get on the opposite 40 and you try to do it, like they're probably looking for it. So, do you think them beating us on a fake punt, had anything to do with it? Do you think during the week they're like, hey, if we get a chance to seal a game with a fake punt?
I don't think so.
You know how
how cool it would have been.
Hold on. Do you know how they beat us with a fake punt?
They lined up and they did an illegal shift.
It wasn't. I don't think it's an illegal shift.
They didn't give the 1 second because technically it changed the formation.
Yeah, so he has to get set before he takes a snap.
Yes.
Okay. That's real nitpicky because
being under center changes the entire concept of that formation because
I know,
you can't
line up under the snap. I get it. That's why it's a beautiful play.
Yes.
I think it might be a little nitpicky to say he's not set for a second because it takes you a second to get under and put your whatever.
That's our brand now is nitpicking.
Hold on. Do you know how they beat us with the fake punt?
How? Well, I mean, they went for the
a QB sneak, under center QB sneak.
Bringing it back to that.
Hey, their wing on punt can take a snap under center. He's probably like a backup quarterback or
Yeah.
something. Not the point.
They got the emergency QB
with a long snapping center too. So hey, if they can teach a long snapping center to do it and a wing to do it, I'm just circling back. You know how they did it under center QB sneak.
All right.
So you don't think it had any? You don't think our play call, even in the back of our head, had anything to do with that?
It might have been in the back of the head, but we have.
You're not going to go.
We've also
You're not going to
them-
go looking for it. You're not going to do it in a bad situation.
We've played them twice since.
But we haven't had a lead to seal against them since then. This is the first time we've ever had a lead to seal against them.
Have you watched the 2019 game? Because we had the lead the entire second half.
How did we win that game? By out-punting them. I think that was just the perfect strategy. We are going to out-punt you. We have one of the best punters in the state. He's kicking 60-yarders. Your guy's kicking 45-yarders. We are just going to slowly move the field back. I think the last thing we wanted to do right there was a fake punt and give them the ball back on the 40.
Yeah,
because we won the game from field positioning.
Also, I do want to go back and look and see if we even had the down and distance opportunity to go for a fake punt
because it's like 3rd and 10, 4th and 10 every time. Yeah. I don't know, but
no, I think those 4th down decisions are made during the week. You're almost never gonna have just a coach in the moment yeah, we're gonna go for it right here. It's you sit down and during your team, during your staff meetings during the week is when you make those decisions.
Hey, if we get the chance to seal it on a fake punt, we're gonna do it. That's what I'm saying throughout the week. I wasn't saying spur of the moment.
Yeah.
You know what? I just randomly remembered from 2018 how they I'm asking, do you think it was even slightly planned throughout the week of hey, if we get the chance?
I think if that was in their heads, then we would have went with the under center QB sneak on the 1.
Yeah, but we can't do that. Also, it was like 4th and 4 or something, 4th and 3.
4th and 3.
Something.
Yeah.
It wasn't 1, yeah.
I mean, in my head, it was, I had the thought and I kind of liked it. It's, their guys just chose not to be blocked. It is what it is.
I'm not mad at it. I mean, it's like when it works, it's great. When it's not, like any fake, it's like when it works and when it doesn't.
Plus, I think a lot of that also had to do with, a couple weeks prior, we hit that for a 20-yard gain. And when you do that, again, that human element, you're feeling pretty good about that play call.
Yeah. That's also the one fake punt we put on film.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they were prepared for it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they slightly adjusted to go on the right edge of all the blockers. I don't know. I
don't know. I mean, I can tell you our special teams has been the most game planny of any of our, offense, defense, anything.
They normally are.
Yeah. And it was that, green game where I can't remember what our normal punt had been, but when we lined up in that towards the end of the game, I'm like, oh, this is what our base punt package looks like. And that's probably what our main sneak or go for it play out of that was. So I don't know if that's the only fake punt play we had or what. I don't know. Beyond that, the only other thing I want to touch on of, I guess sticking along with the theme of the human element was their 4th and 8. Pringle breaks up the pass in the end zone. And he said later, yeah, I was supposed to blitz on that play, and I just saw the guy free release. So, there's 2 ways we can take this. Either hell of a play. Yeah. There's 2 ways we can take this. Either, that's just a hell of a play football IQ from Pringle, or the other way is, is Coach Moore losing the locker room because the kids aren't executing what they're calling. See, winning the whole thing is fun because we can just say dumb shit like that.
Once you lose the locker room,
oh yeah,
there's no coming back. Yeah, that's interesting. Because now I'd like to know who was supposed to pick him up if it wasn't him. Because he's, even on blitz packages, you still have somebody peel with a release.
I
wonder if Pringle was the guy that's supposed to peel with him, and his quote just made it seem like improv.
So I don't know the specifics of that blitz. I don't know if it was a man blitz or a zone blitz or what. I can tell you normally the blitz peel assignment is on a defensive end. that's normally the guy that is responsible for that. Now, with that blitz, if the D-end is stunting inside and the backer's supposed to scrape, stunt around that, and he just did his job, I don't know. I saw the quote right afterwards, and I can't go back and find it, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think the gist of it was, yeah, I was supposed to blitz. I saw the guy free release, so I just said fuck it and went and covered.
Yeah. Great play.
Yeah. Hell of a... I mean, it was a weird thing for Hoban to do, in my opinion, they had a lot of success out of the double fullback stuff, but on 4th and 8, lining up in that and then passing, you're not... Obviously, that play call in and of itself in a vacuum is you're trying to make the defense think run, and then you're hitting the big pass behind them. But in that 4th and 8 situation, you're not really fooling anybody. Everybody knows you have to pass the ball. So that just kind of brings me back to, Hoban looked sloppy for what we've been used to seeing them as. You talk about the false start and the crowd getting into it. I can take that. And the bad snaps, that's Big Mike just kicking the center's ass. But they had a few plays where they either couldn't get the play in, they couldn't get guys lined up right. Hell, one play they lined up with 12 guys on offense.
Yeah, and they barely got the 13th guy off. Yeah. They're young, but to your point, they burned all of their timeouts in both halves, like early, to where they couldn't utilize any of their timeouts for actual timing purposes. They had to use them on formation or get stupid stuff. So they pretty much wasted most, if not all, of their timeouts where they would have liked to have them, I'm sure. So, that probably wasn't your typical Hoban organization as a team. But, they're young. They had a lot of injuries this year where they're mix-matching guys. So, but, yeah, you would expect a team like Hoban to, get lined up right and get their formations in. But, again, that happens at every level. You just don't want to see it in the biggest games.
Yep. And, I'm not sorry to see them doing that. It's burning all 3 timeouts is how we could kneel it out after that incomplete pass. It was just overall, it was kind of weird though, because normally I'm just a optimist in general, and when we have the ball when we're on offense, like, okay, we're gonna go score on this drive, we're gonna score on this drive. Oh, we punted the ball the last 8 drives, don't care, we're gonna go score on this one, god damn it. And when the defense is out there, pucker factor is usually dancing around a nice little 3.5 to 3.8, but the entire game, I was more confident when the defense was out on the field than when the offense was.
Oh yeah, I guess I'm the opposite of you. Like I like when our defense is out there.
Yeah,
I was getting nervous when our offense is out there, and then Mr. Optimist over here, and there's the most annoying way possible again. We're fine. We're fine. You just kept saying that over and over and over, and I'm like, oh my god, Hank, I understand that we're fine. We're not going to lose the play. We're not going to lose the game on this play right here. But we blocked that punt. We get the balls out of the 30. I'm like, all right, momentum. Let's go score. We go backwards. Shit, we go backwards. We're not gaining yard. I'm like, hey, this is prime time. We have to gain a yard. Get 5 yards for a field goal. You're like, we're fine. And then take a sack or something like, we're fine. I'm like, yes, Hank, I understand this isn't, it's not 4th and 1, last play of the game. But, you're just, we're fine, over and over and over again. I'm like, I just want to punch Mr. Optimist in his face right now.
All right, first off, my voice is not that nasally. Secondly, you just don't like hearing the optimist. It's the same way. I don't like hearing so much fucking negativity from our goddamn fans.
If you'd be like, hey, they're setting something up, like, oh, hold on, like that, they had to run through, but you're just like, we're fine. Like, something bad would happen, and you just, instead of, acknowledging, you just go, we're fine. It's like, our starting quarterback just shattered his leg, and the backup is currently going home to do homework. We're fine. Like,
I'm sure they got a third QB.
That's just your response to everything. It's like, you don't give me any feedback. It's like, hold on, we're doing something here. It's just, we're fine. That's how I know something is not fine, because you don't criticize it, or you don't try to correct me. You just go, we're fine. It's like, Hank, where did that blitzer come from? We're fine. I'm like, oh boy. If that's your answer, that's not good.
That means I didn't see the blitzer either.
We're fine. Damn it, Hank. Give me something.
Listen, if I see
Hank,
something,
this is we have to gain 5 yards. We have to kick a field goal. I don't like if we miss it. Like, we have to get in field goal range at least. 0-0, 3 points wins the game. So, loss of 5. We're fine.
hey, our kicker can still kick. That's his job.
It's like, will you at least agree with me that we need to get some yards here? We're fine.
Listen, you know just as well when I'm seeing something in the moment that I am very not happy with, I will be very not happy with it, okay? There was nothing egregious I was seeing.
What game? Was it the Anderson game? I just, double post! Double post! I think you were yelling for the other fans to hear you wanted us to run double post. Double post!
I wanted them to know what happened when he scored the touchdown.
Run double post!
Their safeties were setting it up so perfect. And then the one time we do run it, the guy cuts it too fucking skinny, and the ball's to both of them, which, if he cuts it fat and that ball kind of hangs in the air a little bit, that was the exact pass you were asking for all season of, like, you don't have to hit him in stride. Just he beat the guy, just get it there. Let it throw the jump ball.
Yeah, you do yell at some points.
Oh, I was a very unhappy camper the first half of Valdosta. I was motherfucking everybody. I was ready to burn it all down.
I was okay. I mean, I never, like, put too much into the first game. Mm-hmm. You know, of course, I went humongous game, so I'm excited for it. All of this publicity, everything that's going on, like, I was super excited for the game. But then, you know, if you don't play well in week one, I can be like, all right, hey, week one, it happens. That's not an indication of how the season's going to go. So it started off bad early, and I'm like, I don't have a great feel for our team yet. I mean, you know, I watched some of their summer, like, scrimmage, but, like, you know, no one really has a great feel for the team. It's, you know, new quarterback. Like, it's not like, you know, it's not like when Longwell's coming back for his third year, you have Ballard and Lamp. You kind of have an idea of what you got. Mm-hmm. This year, I'm like, well, you know, we got a bunch of receivers, but none of them are proven. I know a little bit about our line, but new quarter. Like, so when the games first started, I was like, this might not be good. And then we started to come back, and then, you know, I get a little stitious. I'm not superstitious. I get a little stitious.
Just a little stitious.
And I noticed that, like, when I wasn't sitting in my seat, we were doing better. So I was like, all right, I'll take one for the team, and I'll just not go sit in my seat right now.
Which hand is the glove going on?
Oh, that whole 2019 game. That Hoban game, if you are a little stitious like I am, was horrible. Just, okay, if I lean more on my left foot, is that good? No. Okay, if I lean more on my right foot, no. Stand in the middle. Got it. Both gloves? No, only one glove. But do I wear one glove, hold the other glove, or do I put the other glove in my pocket? Right pocket, left pocket, right glove. All game was just a battle of me stressing myself out when I had no impact on the game whatsoever. But for the Valdosta game, we started to come back when I wasn't in my seat. So I was like, all right, I just won't go into that seat. No big deal. But I just never put that much emotion into how we play week one. When we win, oh, hell yeah, that's humongous, great national game. This is amazing. But if you struggle, I'm like, okay.
It is what it is.
No big deal. But then as the year goes on, I get a feel for us. I get a feel for the team, the players, what we're good at, what we struggle with, what we like to do, what we don't like to do. So then that's when it's like, now I kind of have a feel for this and I have an expectation. And that's when I start to get frustrated. It's like, this is happening now and it shouldn't be. In the Hoban game, I didn't have, like, specific issues. It was just I just wanted more production. But that's what happens when you go against a great defense. It's like, I just want more production. And I guarantee the Hoban fans are doing the same thing. Like, I just want more production. Yep. I don't care how. I just want more. So that's when I get frustrated, is later in the year.
So for me, I am always in the moment. I can't, in the Valdosta game, when I am in the moment, when I'm watching the game, I can't take that step back and be like, okay, this is the first game of the season. It is what it is. And then even like looking at the game planning aspect of, we were expecting nothing but cover one man, and they played drop 8, cover 4 all fucking night.
Yeah, they didn't have, I don't think they had the dudes that they've had in the last couple years.
And it's like, everybody comes away from that game thinking, oh, Slaughter looks like shit. We can't do anything. Owens is the dude. Like, why are we still playing these two QBs? And it's like, we essentially told Slaughter, hey, you're going on a vacation down in the Bahamas. And then he gets off the plane, and the guy's like, yeah, we're actually going elk hunting in the outback of Alaska. So tough shit, whatever you prepared for, just total opposite of that. So that was that.
You thought you were going to get a bunch of rub routes and motions and man coverages and one-on-ones all night? No. How about you want to sit back there and read a defense?
Yeah. So, after the game is when I can take a step back and be like, okay, this is what happened. Then I can, all right, we're good. And I'm in the same boat as you of, it's really not until week 3, 4, maybe even 5 of where you don't know what team this is until you get into that, until you've had that live fire. Because obviously with the addition of that extra playoff week, you bump the season up a week, and they never gave us that extra practice time. Yeah. So it's like everybody's working off of one less week of prep time to figure out your team.
Did have some spring football this year, though.
Yeah, which, I don't know how much the offensive defensive lines got to work, because obviously when we saw the spring football, it was all like 7-on-7 stuff.
Yeah, it's probably more install, 7-on-7, play call, stuff like that. A lot less building chemistry with your line type of things.
So in that same vein of, I can take a step back and, okay, we're fine after, I think it was like Sunday after the Valdosta game. Okay, this is what happened. We're good. In the moment, though, we call that fake toss reverse that gets blown up for a loss of 3, and I'm like, motherfucker! Just ready to burn it all down. But as we go on and I see how the team does and how they respond to adversity, we beat Eds. Got a little hairy there at the end, but fairly comfortably after putting the ball on the ground 5 times. It's like, okay, this team's good. We can figure it out. There's no situation this team would be in that I would be uncomfortable with. Yeah. But just kind of on the whole of, in general, when I'm watching football, I'm a little more confident in the offense than when the defense is on the field, because football has become a much more offensive game, much more offensive driven. But when our defense was on the field on Thursday night, I'm fine. We're fine. I'm good, baby. This defense is playing lights out. Best defense in the state of Ohio. I've watched Hoban. I'm watching them all night screw shit up. I ain't scared of them. And, there is still that factor of what's the meme going around, like, oh boy, I can't wait to watch my favorite team play. I'm going to kill myself. Hey, we won. But overall, it was like, when I'm glad the defense was the unit that sealed the game for us. And, hats off to them. And I hope people appreciate this shit, because you're not going to see something like this again for a while.
Yeah. So, since you acknowledged earlier, like talking to a coach off to the side after the game, I saw a lot of the coaches after the game. Yeah. A lot of people in Massillon saw the coaches after the game. But when I first saw Lino, I was like, hey, like, dude, historic. Like, that was historic defense that's going down, in the books. He's like, oh, for anybody that doesn't know, Spencer Lino is like the most humble, sometimes soft-spoken individual you'll ever meet. Insanely humble guy. He is, or was, like, Massillon's all-time leading tackler. I think is. I thought somebody, no, but who would have overtaken him in the last couple of years? All right, whatever. He's top 2. I think he is the all-time leading tackler for Massillon. Doesn't get a whole lot of recognition for how great of a player he was at Massillon, but just super humble guy. And I'm like, you just won state championship games, and he just has this super calm demeanor, like walking around. And I'm like, hey, like, best defense ever. Like, that's going down in history. Best defense since 1940. I'm not lining them up, but like that's just like my baseline for anything. The 1940 team. And if you're just a casual fan listening to this, go look up the 1940 team, because it'll blow your mind. I I don't put anything above the 1940 team. Like, if you ask me,
You can't.
Is this the best team ever? No, 1940 was the best team ever. 1940 was the best high school team ever created. All 11 offensive players were all American. First team All-America was Massillon's offense.
They
only gave up 6 points all year. Unfortunately, it was against McKinley.
And that 6 points was a fumble by the offense returned by their defense for a touchdown.
So you're telling me defense gave up 0 points all year?
Correct.
So I can't go, even in the emotions, I can't go say this is the best defense ever, because 1940 is the peak. Nothing will ever, and due to changes and eras and everything, like, you can't compare things apples to apples anymore. That means 1940s will always be the best team ever. You can't beat it. You can't argue with it because it's not the same game anymore. Because of that, best ever. But I was like, best defense, and he's like, oh, well, I don't know, and that's not how he talks. But like he's not.
I was gonna say, why are you making him sound like Lenny from Mice and Men?
All right,
He's just in the booth, like, just think of the flowers, George.
but like he's not really acknowledging it. And I'm like, no, I need to drill home to you, you humble bastard. This was a very good defense. Like, I don't know if you know that or not. Like, I'm sure he knows, but like, do you understand how good the defense was this year? Like, I just needed to drill this home to him, like, annoyingly. Like, when hold on, there's a million people here that you need to see tonight. I'm not letting you go until you acknowledge that you at least hear what I'm saying. Historic defense. He goes, yeah, okay, all right. I'm like, okay, fine. Good God. I love you. But I'd rather him, like, walk in and just start punching holes in the wall. Like, that, first off, that'd be, like, the coolest thing ever. And I'm surprised it didn't happen.
Oh, if he did the...
Could you imagine if he walked into the Alibi and just started punching holes in the wall, screaming, like, raged up? That would have been the most awesome thing ever.
What I'm actually imagining is... Who was the one guy from The Longest Yard? He was one of the prison guards, one of the linebackers on the team, that he walked in pregame and everybody's getting dressed and they talk to him real quick, and as he's walking out, he just headbutts the shit out of the locker, dents it, and walks out. That's kind of what I'm imagining Lino doing as you're painting that picture.
Yeah. But no, he's just a super soft-spoken, really humble guy. And but he called one hell of a defense this year, and hats off to him, hats off to the entire defense, and historic.
I actually want to go back and look now and see how many points scored against our first team defense.
If you look at Big Mike's dad, at one point had commented on a few posts.
Mm-hmm.
It might have only been the playoffs, though.
I remember
there was something like Massillon's defense
like
has given up like X points. No, he had one against the Federal League too. It was Massillon outscored the Federal League like this many points to this many points, and then he commented on. He's like, "Well, first team defense only gave up this much." So he might already have that like posted on Twitter somewhere. But if not, yeah, go ahead and look up like how many points our starting unit gave up, because I think we averaged like 7-some points per game. And if you take away what garbage time we gave up, it's even less. But that was Lino's reaction. And then when I saw Trox, the very first thing he wanted to say was, "Oh, we missed an opportunity here. We could have done this. We could have did this. We should have done this. The read for this." And I was just like, Trox, shut up. You did everything exactly how we needed it. That you don't question how you won a state championship game. Oh, we could have done. No. You went out there and won the state championship game. That's all that was asked of anybody. That's all it took. One score wins the game. You got us one score. This is high school ball. Every single game is going to have the ifs. I wish. If you look at every game has that. This is the worst time in the world to ever bring that up. But that also goes to what kind of guy he is. Like, after winning the state championship game, it was, oh man, we could have done so much more. I wish I would have been better here. We could have done this. And it's like, I appreciate this. But all I want you to do right now is pop a bottle of champagne and spray it across a whole bar because you just won a state championship game. That's what I want from you.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring him up if you didn't. And, when I saw Trox after downtown, there was nobody more down bad on our offensive performance than he was. And I can't, whatever I said to him, I can't remember because obviously I don't think many people remember what they said that night. I got him feeling better, but I think the gist of it was essentially what you said is you got us enough points to win us a fucking state championship. Yeah. You got us enough points on offense to bring home Massillon, Ohio's first on-field state championship. And that is all you fucking needed to do, brother.
Yeah, I remember I was walking over, and I think I just kind of stumbled into you guys, really. But you guys were already talking when I walked over. And I think you just started talking. Mm-hmm. But he just looked at me, and I think he started repeating what he said to you. He's just like, "Oh, I wish we had opportunity." And I was just like, right then and there's, "Hey, shut up." What? No, you won the state championship. You did everything you needed to do. There was no more that you needed to do. There's opportunities in every game. No, you did it. You did it. Don't feel bad right now. You did it. That's what we needed.
And I think all of that, just everything we just talked about, just speaks to the type of guys on this coaching staff. And it's why, I've gotten shit for it before of carrying their water or, whatever. These guys, this core group of coaches, have brought Massillon unprecedented success since Paul Brown, Leo Strang,
Chuck Mather,
thank you. The name escaped me, but he was in there.
But
yeah.
Leo Strang. You went to Leo Strang. I'm sure he was a good guy, but I think he coached here for 2 years.
Who was the one that had us 56-4?
All right, hold on. Mather's the one you're talking about.
Okay.
Mather won 6 championships.
Okay, I'm thinking of Mather then.
In 6 years.
And
then he went to Kentucky or Missouri or something. And there's a pretty cool quote. He's like, when I beat McKinley at Massillon, they gave me a Buick. When I beat Missouri or something at Kentucky, they gave me a pen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's who I was thinking of then. And then the other
Earl
one.
Bruce.
Earl Bruce, thank you.
Earl Bruce was only here for 2 years, but
20-0.
The only unmarked coach in Massillon history. 20-0, no ties.
Yep. So these guys have brought us unprecedented success since that era. And, you can make the argument for Bob Cummings, too, and that was kind of out the door. I mean, he brought us our last state championship.
Cummings won a championship, but he didn't have the just overwhelming year after year success as the other coaches.
And, you look at this core coaching staff, how many regional titles, how many Federal League titles, how many 3 state championship appearances, and then 1 state championship victory as a public school. Well, 3, I didn't want to say losses, but, we made it 3 times to the dance before this one.
Before winning. Okay.
Yeah, before winning. So this kind of success at this school, at this level that Massillon has been brought about by these guys. Because, a high school football team gets turned over completely every 3 years. So it's not like the NFL where Belichick just has Brady for 20 years and you got the argument of who's the GOAT, who's not. It's these guys have built this program up from shambles, essentially, to where it is now, to fucking state champions, baby. And it's that kind of attitude of you're telling our defensive coordinator this is the greatest defense we've seen since 1940. And he's just, oh, shucks, we're not that. It's not that big. And, we got the OC is like, oh, we could have did so much more. And we won the fucking dance, baby. This is why I'm so high on these guys. Are they my friends? Yes, they are. But they have brought us a level of unprecedented success in the modern era that I don't know how many public schools can say the same.
Oh boy. I mean, Moeller in the early 80s. That's not a public school, is it? I'm just like thinking of any school that has this kind of run. I mean, Hoban, like current Hoban, current Eds, Iggy when they had their run, Moeller in the 80s.
And what do all those schools have in common?
That they're not public?
That they're private schools and they get to play by a different set of rules than we do.
Kind of, yes.
So that's my point, is obviously it's the players on the field. It's, what's the difference between a good coach and a great coach is great players.
We're talking about big schools. There's some smaller schools that have success.
Yeah, but big schools, the ones, the big marquee programs.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go back before steel plants shut down, I would say. I mean, McKinley in the 90s, they were dominant for 2 years. I mean, they were good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they had, like, national contention for a couple years. But it wasn't an 8-year, 9-year span, 10-year span of this, so.
And not to be, like, superstitious, but to be a little stitious, this real run didn't start until this podcast did, so...
Just saying.
I think, we got
People are saying.
Yeah, people
are saying.
We're not.
No,
but
people are saying.
People are saying.
Man, people are saying. You remember back in the day, like, when coaches used to get, like, free cars from, like, local dealerships?
Do I remember? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. You've
heard.
heard.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm not affiliated with the school or the team. So, just saying. Not saying, but people are saying.
We could probably start.
People are saying.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, but I really don't think there's, like, any issue with us receiving anything from anyone.
Yeah.
Because we're not affiliated with the team. I mean, I have a booster club membership, as in, like, 20,000 people have booster club memberships. You buy a $5 membership at the beginning of the year.
Oh, you still have one?
A membership?
I let mine lapse like 3 years ago.
I think my dad actually got me one this year. But if we're going to get into the booster club, that's an entire different other podcast.
Different.
Great, pros, cons. No, having a booster club, absolutely 100% a pro. Are there things that could be better with it? Yes, 100%. But the biggest part of it is they need more people.
Yes.
They need more volunteers. They also need to do a better job of asking for volunteers. That's the biggest problem. Because I used to go to a lot of their stuff, and I was one of the core group of people that would go and do stuff. And they would always complain. It's the same 8 guys that come to this every single time. And I'm like, well, you didn't ask for anybody else to come. You guys you have a group text saying, come meet here and do this. Who do you think's going to show up besides the people in the group text? Like, that's it. There are people willing to do stuff, but you need to give them something to do. So that's just always been my biggest thing. I have not been attending, like, board meetings in a while. Half of that is because I don't live in Massillon anymore. But another part of it is you show up and nothing happens. They are like, Massillon did good last week. We have another game next week. Please leave. We're going to have a private senior board meeting where we actually discuss stuff. Well, why did I come to this?
Same reason I'm not involved anymore. But, on that note, we just want to stay championship.
Yeah.
And this is a happy podcast. This is not bitch fest time right now.
Time to be consistent. Let's keep it going. I got to nitpick something today. I need under center handoffs, and I need the booster club to be better.
Don't forget, when we call a blitz, we need our goddamn linebackers to blitz.
Yeah, actually, at this point, you just got to get rid of Nate.
Yeah.
If he lost the room, they're not listening. If they're not listening to the play calls anymore, whoo! Yikes. All right. Burn it to the ground, I guess.
Yeah, that's I can. All right, let's open up the LinkedIn. Start looking for applications.
Who is it? Somebody's looking for Strongsville. Strongsville's looking for head coach right now. They let their head coach go. I don't know if it had anything to do with players stealing from the Hall of Fame, but all the headlines are like tying the two together.
Yeah,
they're like, head coach let go after players caught stealing from Hall of Fame. And it's like, I don't think that's why he was let go, but it is technically after an event that happened earlier in the year, so the headline's not wrong.
Now, you could say that's the canary in the coal mine of much more underlying issues, but again, neither here nor there. We're not here to speak on that stuff. We are here to celebrate the Ohio State champion Massillon fucking Tigers, baby.
Sir.
So, I mean, where do we go from here? Where did this season start to feel different to you? Because I can't quite pinpoint it. And, going into it, it's like, okay, we got a lot of our returning starters back. Defense is lights out, and we got that core group still there. Offense, like you said, a lot of unproven guys, no real bell cow back. We get this new quarterback in. We don't know what he is. How are we going to handle having the two quarterbacks? Because Slaughter, brought us to regional finals and then semifinals the year after that, and it's how do you handle the situation? So, and then of course the whole fucking debacle going into it with the whole thing beforehand. So where did it start feeling like this is we got something going here?
I think it was really when Owens took over in the Valdosta game. When he broke off a couple big runs, it told me that we are going to be able to win a lot of games just because of that. I knew we were a solid team. We were returning a lot of guys on defense, basically our entire front seven. We were losing Moore, who was a really good player, but returning basically the front seven, which last year I kept saying I thought our front seven was the best front seven in the state. Our defensive backs matured this year. We got better in the back end. And whereas we were, missing Moore, he's a good player, D1 player, played at Akron this year. I think we were able to fill in that spot. I think Card did a really good job this year. Probably didn't get talked about as much. Maybe it's because he had some really big plays later in the year, and I don't know if that was like a development thing for him or just as a fan, you don't notice everything, especially on the defensive line. But I think towards the end of the year, there was a spurt where Card was making a lot of plays and not Bond. And I saw it was actually our guy from Warren, who was much more of like a Northeast Ohio sports guy rather than just a Warren guy. But he was talking about with Warren, they just would not run at Bond. He's like, we knew better. Don't run at Bond. So maybe that gave Card the opportunity to make a lot more plays, but I think he stepped in and made a lot. So whereas I thought last year we had the best front seven in the state, or going into it, I was like, we could have the best front seven in the state. This year we basically returned everyone, and it's like, well, that's going to be good. And the back end's probably only going to get better. We got a little bit older. So the defense was solid. I had confidence in them. But when I saw the ability to have Owens break off 70-yard runs, I was like, oh, half the teams on our schedule won't be able to stop that. We could just do that. That's the only play you need. And half the teams won't be able. We are a good enough team that you could do a QB read, and he's going to break a tackle and go for 70 against most teams. You're not going to beat a Hoban like that. You're not going to beat an Eds like that. So I think when we played Eds, and before the season started, I said, wait and watch. If we're both undefeated going into that game, it's going to have national hype. And it did. And when we beat Eds, and we were able to hold them to, 6 points? Up until the stupid conversion on 4th and 30 or whatever bullshit that was. I'm still mad about that. How do you give up a fourth? So, when we're able to control the game against Eds, that's when I was like, oh, okay. Now, I watched some Eds film going into it, and I did not think Eds was as good as people were giving them credit for. I did not think they were a top 10 team in the country. I thought the offensive line, whereas they were very highly rated, still very highly rated, I thought we had the potential to push them around up front, and we did. So it just kind of gave me the validation of, if we are as good as I think we are, we should be able to kind of show it Friday night. And we went out there and we did against them. And that's when I was like, okay, wait, yeah, we'll see Hoban eventually. I don't know what week. I don't know how the playoffs are all going to shake out, but we will see Hoban eventually, because once we peaked over Eds, there was nothing else in my sights except for Hoban.
Yeah, it was the Eds game for me too. I look at the Valdosta game, and it's the opposite side of the coin of how we came in with a game plan that Valdosta said, tough shit, it's completely different. And we had never shown a quarterback with Owen's skill set before and what we would do with that. I mean, you can go back and look, structurally what we like to do with it with McElroy back there. McElroy? Yeah. One of those.
Same guy.
Yeah. It throws me off because we've had like 4 different guys, same spelling, same big M, little C, big E, and they've all had a different pronunciation. But, you could go back and look structurally. If
went to school with a couple.
Yeah.
And then there were the defensive lineman,
mm-hmm.
and then the quarterback. Mm-hmm. I don't think any are related.
No.
3 different families, but same spelling.
Yeah.
Same town, 10 years.
That's something. But, you could look back structurally, but did they, how much did they know that Owens was a dude? How much were we going to use him? So I could chalk up a lot of his big runs and a lot of that offense being successful as they being just as unprepared for that as we were for their defense. And obviously it's like, okay, you're feeling good. We know how to use these guys. But it didn't start feeling like this may have been the year until, like you said, that Eds game of you don't give up that 4th and 30 and what final scores 15-6, 15-7? 15-6. And then obviously it feels a little bit better. It feels a little more comfortable. But really, we don't put the ball on the ground 5 fucking times.
That's the one thing I always forget about that game.
That scores.
I'm glad you bring it up because I don't remember that.
So when we beat them as handily as we did with playing as...
I remember Pringle fumbling in the 4th,
mm-hmm.
and that was the
oh no.
Because...
he was the one that caused the fumble the year before to get the ball back.
Yeah. I was like, so Pringle rips the ball out last year so we can go and win the game against Eds, and then this year while we're up with score, he fumbled. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
So I remember that one.
But it was like playing as sloppy as we did and beating them as handily as we did, relatively, that I'm like, okay, we got something cooking here. And then the rest of the season, it was like tamping that feeling down. Because, as a Massillon fan, we've experienced it all of our lives. Most fans have experienced it all of their lives. Of you're feeling good, you get your hopes up. What heartbreaking thing is going to happen that just absolutely devastates you, and you just want to crawl into a ball and
on that 4th and 8 when the Hoban quarterback threw it just out of his hands, I was, It was a nice run. I didn't even look where he was throwing it, just out of his hand. I'm like, yep, that's how it works. It always happens.
When he threw that ball, I was watching it just like any other fan was. I didn't have that moment. And when we broke it up in the end zone, really it was more of a drop than anything, but I don't want to talk about that.
No, but Pringle does make a really good play on the receiver.
Yes.
I don't think he gets a hand on the ball, but he gets a hand on the receiver, gets in there, makes an outstanding play. So mean, yeah, it kind of hit him in the hands, but at the same time, Pringle did break it up. It wasn't in real time. I thought he just dropped it, and like rewatching, there's 100 different angles of it. No, Pringle gets in there, makes a great play.
Yeah. And then we have that moment in the stands. Everybody's hugging and shit. It's like, oh, we just did this, and then we get the ball back. And I think like collectively, everybody looks at the clock. It's like, oh, it feels like there's more time than there is. Oh, there's like 1:30 left. Oh, they have no timeouts. Oh, we can kneel this out.
Oh, see, I knew it.
And it was, I mean, for me, I'm sitting there like watching in total, complete, utter disbelief of what thing is going to go wrong that we're not going to win this.
Oh, no, I knew that play was the game. So if we stopped it, game was over. So when they didn't complete it, all right, that's it. That's the game. And disbelief first, and then kind of a celebration. Still mostly disbelief, more than celebration. But I remember watching us like kneel it out, but I'm watching like people celebrating and everything. I'm not paying attention to the clock. And then I hear like people start counting down the clock. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought the game was over. Like I didn't even think about how the clock was still running. So we took a kneel or two and then the final countdown. But no, that was the one time in my life where I was like certain it was done and over with. There was nothing that could go wrong from here.
Nope. I was in that of like, okay, what's gonna fuck up that we're gonna lose this game? Because that's all that's ever happened to us is loss and heartbreak, and
one way or another,
some shit happens.
We've never finished the year.
Bad call,
on a win in my lifetime. Well,
the last time, so without going back and looking, obviously 1970 they won it, 10-0, state champions. Then my dad's senior year, they beat McKinley, but that's the playoff era. They were already out of it. They win it. They win, beat McKinley, end the season on a win, but that's it. There's no playoffs. There's no going from there. So I don't know when the last time that actually happened for Massillon was.
See if I can just look it up real quick. But so I remember in like 2000 and... All right, hold on. So I was 11, 9. Yeah, I might be off one. I think I'm like combining 2 years. That would have been my freshman year. What was 8th grade? I don't know. So I was thinking that in like 2008 we beat McKinley, and then that was the end of the year. But 2008 would have been at home, right? Because you were 12, 10, 8 was at home.
Yeah.
So that my freshman year.
Yeah.
I remember beating McKinley, and then I think that was the year we lost to Hoover in the playoffs. So that's a different year. I was thinking that the next year was but no. Yeah. I was thinking that was my 8th grade year, but it wasn't. 8th grade year would have been at McKinley.
Because 2009 was when we lost to McKinley regular season, beat them in the playoffs.
And then lost to Glenville in the D1 state semifinals. Congrats to Glenville on their D4 state championship last week.
But just to go back, it's like, you're sitting, I mean, I don't know how many people were like this, but I'm sitting in the stands of like, what's going to go wrong? Because you've been beaten down your whole fucking life being a Massillon fan. You've had spurts of success. It's obviously beating McKinley is always the big thing. And then you go to the playoffs and hopes are up every year and it just doesn't happen. Or you have that one bad season.
How many times have you walked out of the Rubber Bowl like sad? More times than not, I'm sure.
A lot of Massillon tears in that stadium. And it's just in that moment, it was complete, total, utter disbelief. Not even disbelief, just refusing to believe we just did the goddamn thing. And then, you kneel it out a couple times and you get the countdown. And then you saw a town get a 50-year-old elephant off their back. And what I loved most about it is like going back and looking at all the videos, all the on-field shit, and just watching it live, is those kids understood exactly what they just did. You know, we've been there 3 times. We saw the other team win the state championship. And obviously it fucking sucks, and being on the losing end of it, and you're hurt. And you watch the other team celebrate, and that just sucks the soul out of you. But you watch them celebrate, and it's like, yeah, they just won a big game. And I think like a good comparison is, you know, watching LeBron win the NBA Finals with Miami versus how was he when he won it at Cleveland. Yeah. Just total, can't even talk, broken down, in tears. And you saw our entire team was like that. So it's like, not only did we win the fucking thing, it's this team understood what it meant.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that credit goes to having a decent amount of Massillon guys on the staff. Specifically, Massillon guys that really care about Massillon, care about the history of Massillon. You know, like Coach Hack is a very passionate player in general. Coach, player, person. Human. But very passionate about Massillon. And then, you know, like Coach Jarvis and Lino and Stu, who's gone through the program, and, you know, obviously like Stu, and a very passionate, very outspoken leader, strength coach of the team. And then you go to like Coach Weber, who is just undoubtedly this humongous, I'm going to explain to you what Massillon means. I'm going to explain the history to the kids every single year. And yeah, I'm sure Coach Stu gives that super aggressive pep talk before the game. I heard he gave a great one before Hovind. That's the most details I've heard, was that just an amazing, got him going pep talk.
And you know what? I don't want to know what the pep talk was.
I don't want to hear it.
Because
I heard it was good.
And it's like, it's just, you want that separate. We're just fans.
Yeah.
And what happens in that locker room is between the coaches and the players. And I hope that never gets out. I hope nobody ever talks about what that pregame speech was, because I just like, you know, the kids to have that and the coaches to have that, and that just be their thing. You know, we all got this state championship. It was for the entire city, and we all got to be there and celebrate, and the fucking Hall of Fame had to kick us out because nobody wanted to leave. But those are the little things, you know, all the off-season workouts, all the bullshit they went through, that what made that season special for the kids, for the team, for the coaches, for everyone involved in that. And I hope that they get to, like, that's one of those things, you get to have that for yourself and you don't have to share that with anyone else.
Yeah, I think the one thing worth mentioning was that I heard he gave a very good pregame speech, and you can imagine how big of a deal it is to him and how good he is at tying into the emotions of the players. But I was going to say, off of that, besides a pregame speech that gets everybody, you know, ready to go run through walls, I'm sure Coach Weber has been, throughout the year, explaining to the players how important Massillon history is, because every time that we've talked to him, that's been a very big talking point from him, is how he tries to educate the kids on Massillon history and really explain to them how important it is that there are 60, 70, 80-year-old people up in the stands right now watching you. That you're not just playing for yourself, you're playing for your town, you're playing for them. And a lot of the different quotes that I heard from players was, or like, you know, they put out tweets, if they said something in the paper, if they said something while being video recorded after the game was that it's for the city. And I think they do understand how big of a deal it was for the community, not just for them. Congrats to everybody else that won a state championship. I doubt any of those other teams had a community like ours. Well, I know that they didn't have a community like ours, but I doubt that any of them had that sense of playing for their town, for the community, for the fans.
Playing for something more than themselves.
Glenville goes out, wins the state championship. That's great. You do it for yourself. You can do it for your school. You can do it for your family. They're not saying we did it for the Glenville community. That's not what happened. None of these other teams that go out there, you're never going to hear Eds say, oh, we did it for the 80-year-old guy climbing the stairs. Unless that was his specific grandfather. He's not doing it for the 80-year-old guy in the stands or at home in the nursing home watching it. The Massillon players did it for the town, and I think they understood that. And that stems from the Massillon presence in the program.
And, it's not just the kids either. It's, you look at, Nate and Kale and Trox and everybody else on that staff that weren't.
They understand it. They bought in.
Yeah, they're not Massillon. Not that they're not Massillon guys. They didn't grow up in Massillon. It's they got here not. Obviously, you don't get it until you're in it, and they got here not getting it. And just talking to them throughout the years, it's they bought in. It's you always looked at. I think everybody always looks at Massillon like a stepping stone type job. And Nate gets here, and I guarantee his ass is going to have to be fired and dragged out of the facilities before he would ever willingly leave this place. But it's everyone, top to bottom, gets it. And I did want to read, because I think it distilled it. You were talking about Hack at the top, of him just being, just a high-energy human. And he put this on Facebook, and it's with him and his son, and they're hugging, and little Hack's crying. It's a great picture in and of itself, but, he wrote, every player that has carried the weight of the city on their shoulders from 1970 to this point understands why our players were so emotional after the game. This is a victory for all of us, from an extraordinary football team that did everything the right way to prepare for this moment. The Massillon Tigers are state champions, and nobody can ever take that away from us.
Yeah. And, he had a few. That was a really big one. He had another post. I think it was the same picture that you're talking about. And he's like, I don't know if I'll ever feel this again, but, it's an amazing feeling. Or, great. I don't think he said greatest feeling ever, but just super important to everyone. To that point, I got a text. I don't know if it was the next day or 2 days later. The days kind of like blended in there for a little while. Yeah. I don't really know what day it is today, for starters.
My boy had some vacation days to burn at work.
So, yeah. So Thursday was the game, and I have not worked since then. And today is
Saturday.
Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday.
The week after. So I lost track of days there for a little while, but I got a text, and it was like, congratulations on the state championship. But like, it was like congratulating me personally, and it was kind of like it was a group text, but it was all former players. And the whole point of it was that, it wasn't just this team that won the state championship. It's everyone won the state championship. And in order for a tradition to continue, it has to be upheld every year. God, I kind of hated saying that, because uphold the tradition was a Jason Hall era thing. But the tradition only goes if you continue to embrace it. So, to the point of what Hack was saying, is every single player that went through the program has had that weight on their shoulders of not winning a state championship. But you have to continue the program, continue the tradition, because once you let it die out, it stops. You will never get it back. So this team is the one that did it. They went out there, they won the championship on the field. But a huge part of that is how the community has stuck with the program for so long and made sure that it is as big of a deal as it is. Because without that, the players don't care, the coaches don't care, you don't get the good coaches to begin with. It's not the same. In order to have the good coaches, the good players, the good program, you have to have the community to back it. Without that, you are going to go through spurts of when you just happen to have a really good kid come through your program. Like you've seen great programs fall apart because the community doesn't stick with it. I know that our guy from Warren, he talks about it a lot. He's like, I wish Warren was like what they were in 2000. They're not. Warren went to a state championship game and they filled the stands. Now Warren can't get 500 guys to come to their games. You see what's happening at McKinley. I think that they are trying to do the right things there, but the community is not bought in. If you can't fix the community, you can't fix the city, you can't fix the program. Inevitably, McKinley will have good athletes coming through their program, and they will inevitably have a good team because of that. But you cannot have consistency without having the community. Without the community, Massillon is nothing. For everyone, this is a Matt quote, not quote, but Matt concept. And after I heard him say it once, I fully bought into it. You hear about people that complain that Massillon cares too much about football. They need to care about other things. And I think we do need to care about other things also, besides just football. But what is Massillon besides a failed steel community without football? Stop caring about football and watch the town fall to shit. Massillon will not exist without football. Massillon is football, football is Massillon. The community cares, and once they stop, Massillon football stops. And then Massillon stops.
And that's what makes... I don't want to just repeat something everybody knows, but that's what makes Massillon special, is that you have... Take football out of it. How many communities, how many cities do you know that they just have this thing that they can all get up and rally behind? You don't have that. It's, and not to, take the boomer take of, the way the world is nowadays, that people don't just care about stuff, yada, yada, yada. But how many...
Tell that to how many people showed up to the game. How many people showed up downtown. How many people are going to go to the parade tomorrow?
Sunday.
Even though it's in the evening on a Sunday. It means something. It doesn't have to be football. It could be anything. You don't find communities come together for anything. Now that I don't live in Massillon anymore. I know people. I mean, we all know people that aren't from Massillon. I don't work with anyone else that's like from Massillon. Like the people that I see in my area aren't from Massillon, but like they don't have this. They don't understand it. But they don't have anything that comes close to it. They're like, what do you mean that like you're going to a high school football game? That's only for students. Only students go to high school football games. Like, obviously you don't know Massillon. Or obviously you don't know any historic program. You have all these suburbs that got bought up and it's much newer. You go to these schools, you leave those schools, you never come back. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there's no sense of history. You can't go to these other schools, even like a Jackson. You can't go to Jackson and say, hey, what's the history at Jackson? Well, if you go back far enough, like Massillon was cool. Like Jackson, great community, great booming. Like they do very well. They don't have a history. They support their sports to the extent that they can, but it's never going to be like a Massillon. No one's ever going to be like a Massillon. And it's just so much different that nobody can rally around anything because nothing is important enough to any single community to rally behind. We have that. And I wish that some other schools would, because there's plenty of schools out there that do have the history, but they don't embrace it, or they can't get their community, the city, in order well enough that they can fully embrace it.
Yeah. I think I might have been the only human there on a Thursday night that was happy it was a Thursday night, because this past weekend, the weekend after the state championship, was my weekend up at base. And obviously, my point there is you have a lot of different people coming in from all over. Some have an idea about Massillon, some don't. And I had a lot of people like congratulating me on the state championship. And that's because I wear my Massillon shit up there with pride. And you can tell none of them get it. It's like, oh, this guy's happy his high school team won a championship. And my canned answer, and it was kind of tongue-in-cheek, just taking the air out of it, was like, yeah, I cried. And they don't understand that what Massillon is and what makes Massillon special. And like you said, what makes it special is the community. And we can't let this shit die out. And I don't think it's going to die out anytime. And I think a big part of, we rag on Jason Hall quite a bit on this podcast for plenty of different reasons. But I think a big underlying reason of why, why I don't like him, why a lot of people don't like him, is when you were in the program, Massillon football wasn't a thing before 2008. He didn't embrace the community. He didn't embrace the history like he did. And obviously we had varying levels of success with him. But it didn't feel like it should have.
He completely not renovated, but redid like all the paint and pictures in the weight room.
Mm-hmm. There's not a single picture that was put up in there during his era that was before his time.
Yeah, the oldest person. I mean, these are huge like murals of players on the wall. And the oldest player in there was Devin Smith.
Leno.
Oh, Leno was... All right, so no one in there before the graduating class of 2010. Because to him, Massillon football started in 2008. There was no history. There was no... If you remember, there used to be an entire wall in the high school that was like the football player of the year for every single season in Massillon history. That wasn't up when we were in high school, I don't think.
It was there when I got there. It got torn down when we renovated that weight room. And not to take away from what great players Leno and Devin Smith and anybody else that's up there
and they should be included on the list of great players. But don't wipe out 120, 30 years worth of history in order to do that.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, this shit is what makes Massillon, is you have this community. You have this community that can every single person in this 33,000 plus community all gets up and rallies behind one thing. And like you said, people grow up, they leave, whatever. And I think that's good for a lot of people, is to go out and experience other parts of life. But when you go out and you do that, you find out how special Massillon is. You move to Pennsylvania, you move to India, you move across the fucking country, and you learn there's no other community like Massillon. There's no other place that gets up on a Thursday night and fills a 22,000 plus capacity stadium for a cause. And that's what makes this place beautiful. And that's what made that Thursday night over in Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium so fucking special.
Yeah, I really liked the one video of in the locker room after the game. You know, they're celebrating, and then Stu comes walking in, like, gets everybody's attention. You know, like, exactly like how he would. You know, hey, just barking at him. And then it only takes one or two. And they're like, oh, if Stu's, everybody pay attention. And he said, even though we're in Canton, Ohio, or like put emphasis on we are in Canton, Ohio, he lifts up the old wooden sign that at least was in the team room when we were there. I know they have it around somewhere. I don't know exactly where they keep it now. But he holds up the old wooden sign that says, through these doors, walk champions. And it's like, yeah, that's an old-ass sign. That was from when Massillon walked through the doors as champions. And we haven't been able to do that in over 50 years. But we still have that sign. And we still embrace that sign. But I like the fact that it was like, yeah, we're in Canton. Where else would you rather do this besides in Canton, Ohio? You know, east of Kmart. Where else would you rather do it than right here? And here it is. We walk through this door as champions.
And, you know, people are going to want to try and knock us down, take it away of like, oh, you know, Hoban wasn't that big this year. Oh, you guys didn't really play anybody in the playoff. Oh, a bunch of your players aren't. Fuck that noise.
This is the first I'm hearing of any of that.
I haven't read much online, but I can very much assume that
no, people are going to say shit. Yeah. Luckily, I haven't seen any of it.
People are going to say shit, and you know what? You just let them talk, because that's coming from a place of they didn't grow up here. They don't understand it. They, for unlucky for them, were born in wherever the hell they were born. Doesn't matter. They are jealous of what we have. Mm-hmm. They will never know the feeling of watching that 50-year-old monkey get taken off an entire community's back and doing the entire goddamn thing.
No one talks shit to Medina Highland when they lose a football game. No one goes out of their way to go talk crap to Twinsburg if they lose a game. People pop out of the woodworks any chance they get to talk shit to Massillon, and you should really just take that as a compliment of they understand how big of a deal it is to us. But to your point, undisputed champions. If it wasn't enough to just win it on the field, that's what it takes. You won it on the field. You beat the opponent in the state championship game that you were faced against. We were also undefeated, 16-0. We beat every opponent that came across us. Well, what kind of schedule did you play? We had the most Harbin points in the state of Ohio of any division, which means we beat the most quality opponents of anyone in Ohio. We were the Joe Idol computer points. Fantastic 50 computer like simulation point. Like if you combine everything together of how a computer would run it, of what team's gonna win, we were number one in Ohio. We were AP poll state champs. We are Max Prep's number one team in the state. And I haven't looked. I'm sure it's updated, but I bet we are now top 10, consensus top 10 team in the country. I think like Max Preps had us like 9 the last I looked, and USA Today was like 11 before the state championship game. top 10 team in the country by every metric. AP poll, coaches poll, computer poll, Harwin points poll, on the field, doesn't matter. Undisputed, best team in the state. We beat the D1 state champions. I don't know how anyone could try to argue any single point of us not being the best team in the state outside of somebody that wants to say Ed's had their backup. We earned this. Undisputed. There is no arguing this. It happened. There is no flaw on this report card. Hundreds all the way across the board.
Beat the D1 state champs. Beat top-ranked team in Delaware. Beat top-ranked team in D.C. Beat McKinley. Beat whoever the hell else we beat, man. And we beat every single one of them soundly. There was no... This state championship game was the first game of our season where it came down to the wire. Where it came down to the last play. Obviously, it was close with Eds at the end. But this was the one where it came down to the wire. And every other team backup saw the fucking field. So anybody that wants to talk shit, anybody that wants to try and take this away from us, it's coming from a place of jealousy, from misery, from sadness. You're up here, and they're trying to bring you back down here to their level. You know, you talk about nobody talks shit about Medina Highland or any other team when they lose. Nobody talks shit about those teams when they win like they do about Massillon. I've never seen more shit talked about Massillon than when we beat Valdosta, than when we beat Eds, than when we beat McKinley. These guys just come out of the woodwork, and they're miserable, and they're mad that you're not. And you have a good reason to not be miserable, because this team, this community just went out there and did the goddamn thing. And I don't know why OSHA wants to underreport the numbers at the state championship game, saying there was 14,000 of us there.
A couple of different theories.
I don't believe there were only 14,000 Massillon fans there.
Yeah.
That stadium sits 22,000.
Over that, yeah.
And it was packed. Obviously, it was good to see Holden brought a lot of fans. You know,
Yeah,
I remember
they did. They filled in.
Yeah, in what was it, in 18 when we played them, it wasn't filled in like that. In 20 when we played them at home, it wasn't. The away stands weren't filled in like that. This year, that stadium was fucking packed. There was no less than 20,000 people in that stadium.
Yeah.
And the entire home side and plenty of the away side was wearing orange and black. This community came out and watched these Tigers do the damn thing. And no one can take that away from us.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that attendance numbers just don't get reported accurately in general. I think they're always underreported. Even like when we have a home game, I think the numbers are underreported. So I think part of that is how tickets get scanned and whatever system they use to scan the tickets.
The people at the gate not scanning tickets.
They just don't scan tickets. Yeah, the amount of times like the scanner will like start giving them issues, and if they see you have a ticket, they're just go ahead. They're like, this thing's acting up. You have a ticket, cool, go ahead. You're fine. So like that's part of it. You would think that when you're buying tickets online, which I think all of the state championship tickets were online, over 90% of them online, you could just report how many were purchased online. You wouldn't wait to see how many people show up. But they do. They wait to see how many people show up, and they scan people at the gate, which, there's human error of scanning tickets at the gate. I also heard a theory that, like, OHSA is underreporting it because
to keep the profit.
Because there's like a percentage that they pay to either the facility or, so they're just pocketing the rest. That's also a possibility that I 100% would not disagree with. But in general, I think there's just inaccuracies with recording attendances. It's always low. I mean, people don't show up in the numbers that they used to. Fully understand that. But if you're telling me we could have fit another 7,000 people in that stadium in seats,
I'd call you a goddamn liar.
I mean, I understand like the band takes up a section, so that's a section you can't sell, but they don't account for everyone. They try to account for the ones that get scanned, but I think it's being underreported, and I think the entire system underreports. There's no way there was less than 15,000 people there. There are pictures, there's videos where the home side is full. I saw stuff at the end of the game where, you know, some people start leaving. They don't stay to watch the trophy celebration. So the stands start to empty a little bit at that point. And there are people still trying to get their seats, like as the team came out. But if you look at pictures and videos during the game, if you look at the video of that fourth down stop at the end of the game, the stands are full, completely full. I don't see... So if you split it up, let's say the stadium holds 7,000 more people, what, 5,000 more on the home side? Where? 2,000 on the away side? I mean, I don't know. If you start doubling up, you could fit 2,000 people over there, maybe the end zones where the band is. But you still have to find 5, 4, 3,000 more seats on the home stands, and it wasn't there. There was not that many seats. No way.
Not happening. It was fucking awesome, man. Getting the entire community. You know, you got people flying in from across the country to come in and watch
Arizona, Florida, I mean, yeah.
Everything. And, you know, shout out to whatever community down in Florida that, like, they have a Massillon Day. It's, like, Nana lives in Largo, and it's, like, within a 30-minute radius of that sometimes there's so many Massillon transplants down there that they have a Massillon Day. You know, I love wearing my Massillon gear down there. Hell, you saw it. We went to a restaurant and I'm wearing the "We're True to These" shirt. You know, nothing says Massillon on it. There's a tiny ass Obi, and lady from sitting at the table a couple ways away is like, "Hey, is that Obi from Massillon?" And it's, you know, we have such a brand, a community, we have this thing that is so special that it doesn't matter how far away you moved. You are always a part of Massillon.
Yeah, that's also why I prefer the Obi over the Block M, because everyone uses a Block M. Only we use Obi. I mean, when we were down in Florida, we ran into a couple people that recognized it. There was the one time the people were from Jackson. They're like, oh yeah, well, we're from Jackson. But the other time we went to the restaurant and we sat right next to a guy. He's like, is that Massillon? He goes, yeah. He goes, graduate of '84. I moved down here, a week after graduating. Haven't been back since. But 40 years later, he's like, oh yeah, you're from Massillon. It's so recognizable, and people care. They'll go out of their way to, see an Obi. And the amount of times you're walking through an airport and you hear somebody chanting to you, and it's like they're not from Massillon, but they'll be with a group of people and they're like, hey, watch what happens. I was at the dentist a couple of months ago, and one of the techs there said that to some of the other. They're like, hey, watch what happens if I do this. And she gave me a TIG, and I was like, ERS. And they're like, what was that? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm not. She's like, I'm not from Massillon. I just know you do that. And everyone was so confused. And they're like, why do they do that? But it's such a brand. It's such a known thing outside of just our community that it's definitely something special.
Yeah. And I'm just all in my feels now. This is... It's a feeling, obviously nobody's ever really had this before. It's every state championship before this, for the old timers that remember them. I don't know exactly how it works. It's you get down to week 10, and I'm sure for the most part, they knew they were playing for it.
Yeah.
And it's if you win, you win, and that's awesome. But it's
You still kind of had to wait and see
Yeah.
if you actually were awarded the state championship or not.
and then part of that is week 10's always been McKinley,
Yeah.
and you're playing McKinley. It's McKinley week. That is what that is.
Can you imagine how big of a deal that was back then? Like knowing you're going against McKinley
For a state
and it's a
championship.
state championship game. I mean, how many years do you think we played each other where the winner was the state champion?
There's been a few.
Yeah.
Go watch, Timeless Rivals. I bring it up, but it's like obviously the state championship. It means a lot, but back in the day, it's McKinley. It's weird to say, but McKinley meant more. And during that time, we were 24-time state champs, and it's like it's kind of an afterthought to beating McKinley. If you don't beat McKinley, the rest of the season doesn't matter. It's like what Ellery Moore said in Go Tigers. It's like, they don't care what you did. It's, hey, y'all going to beat McKinley this year.
It's an interesting statistic. I doubt we ever won a state championship without beating McKinley.
No way.
Because you basically had to go undefeated to win a state championship back then. So you can't win without beating McKinley.
Looking at 73, my dad's junior year, they went, undefeated, 9-0 going into McKinley week, and it's playoffs had just opened up. I think that was the first year of the playoffs, but there was only 4 teams, and McKinley beats them, and they don't make it into the playoffs. And obviously back then it was a little bit different too. You still have that veneer of we're 24-time state champs. You obviously want to win out, but being that close to all of that greatness versus 50 years of nothing. Yeah. This one meant more than any other game Massillon has ever played. I guarantee that.
Yeah. I was going to call it a once in a lifetime, but I hope it's not. It's definitely a once in a lifetime of, breaking that 50-year curse. Mm-hmm. Because if we go on another 50-year spell, I hope I don't want to be around for that.
Listen, if I'm a geriatric in the stands and it's been another 50 years since we've won one and we do it again, I'm there for it. Yeah. And if I have a heart attack in the stands and die in that moment on another, 4th and 8 of breaking up a pass and that wins us the game, I can't really think of any better ways to go.
No, not at 80.
Obviously, it'd probably be like a tragedy for my family and anybody around them. But hey, fuck them. I go out a champion. God damn it.
Yeah, just if I'm of age and I have a heart attack on a game-winning play of a state championship game, like don't be sad. Mm-hmm. Like celebrate.
Yeah.
Like they'll come and get me when they get me. Like
actually no. Fuck that. Weekend at Bernie.
Take me downtown.
Yeah, weekend at Bernie's my ass downtown and let my body celebrate.
Walk me through the alibi.
Yep.
People might be kind of confused, but like it's what he wanted.
Yeah. And I guarantee that dead body in there in the alibi just slumped over the bar is not going to be the worst shaped person in there that night.
No, I mean, hell, you almost did that this year.
We can talk about that. I remember, okay. So I may have taken a little nappy nap downtown after we won.
It's a quick one.
And that's not the first time I did that. Probably won't be the last. I remember the first time I did that. I told my dad, and I'm like, we were just, bullshitting, it's whatever. And he's like, oh, you do that too? You telling me this shit's genetic? And then after we won on Thursday, my dad stops by on Friday. I had to pick something up, and I told him that, and he's like, well, somebody's got to carry on the tradition. God damn it. You know what? I'll carry that torch. I'll do it. If that means taking however many more naps after however many more state championships downtown, I will be that guy. I will fall on that sword for anyone else.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes. And during my my break time downtown, I'm sure everybody had a lot of fun. I got my beauty rest.
Oh man, it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was, and I hope everybody listening to this now, everybody that was there, got to go downtown, got to soak it all in. You know, we weren't downtown when the team came through because
just missed it.
Yeah, the way traffic worked, we couldn't get out until then, but getting to drive through downtown in the bus, just holding the flag, and everybody's still out and cheering, that's something, you know, I'll never forget for the rest of my life, and I hope nobody else forgets it. And I hope it's not the last one in our lifetime. And I say that understanding what we had this year was special. And I hope everybody else appreciates that. And this has been the standard since Moore, you know, got us there in 18 and 19 and 20. And it's tough for a public school. And I say that to say, if we don't ever get here again soon, you know, those seasons aren't a disappointment. It's tough playing by different rules than what are generally the perennial state champions, the Hobans, the Eds, the Mollers, the Iggies when they were in their prime. But, you know, this year we actually got that constitutional state championship, you know, separation of church and state. That popped in my head. That joke did about 4 or 5 days ago, and I've been trying to workshop it ever since. That's the best I could do.
You can hold on to that. Yeah.
Well, it's been in the back pocket. I've been looking for a spot to say it, and I know it's not great, and I know everybody probably groaned, and I'm probably going to edit in like a but when I say that in the podcast. But yeah, I am a fan of shitty puns, and this championship wouldn't be complete if I didn't get a shitty pun in there.
Yeah, fucking Penn Franklin over here. Good God. All right, well, now that you got that one out, you know, the Constitution, separation of church and state.
You know, that was good.
Okay. Yeah, you know, like God loves us for free, and, you know, all the different parochial jokes. Oh, man.
I was actually, when that popped in my head, I was actually disappointed that I had never thought of that before. But, hey, here we are. We got it, and I got it in there. And I mean, you know my sense of humor. Generally, I'm much more off the cuff, just kind of on the fly, wordplay kind of guy. So I'm not really a joke writer. I don't sit on stuff to think about and how am I going to work this into conversation. But I was getting that one off, goddammit.
Congratulations. I'll give you your flowers on that.
Thank you.
I think there's some workshopping to you could really kind of brand that, but
oh, it was tough to get it to that point.
Yeah, no, I've been trying to think of a way to mix it into something, and it's tough. But yeah, you know, it's like Constitution, 2023 football, the two things that separate church from it's something there, you know, but it's a rough one.
The wordplay's clever. Obviously, separation of church and state, and then state championship.
I just feel like there's not a whole lot you can do with it from there.
There's really not, and that's why my joke is so shitty.
Because you can't really combine it with anything. You can't really split it very well. I mean, you might got something with state champion.
Yeah, state champion, church and state. That's what I was going for.
But now, instead of making it like a public school versus private thing, you would just be taking Hoban and prying it away from a state championship and just saying church and state, separating church from state.
Yeah. I'm sure I could work that into a conversation about separating, you know, having the parochial schools be their own thing and public schools be another.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And I don't really want it to happen either. I just want the parochial schools to maybe be held a little bit more accountable, but I just don't know how you do it. You know, how do you keep kids from going to parochial schools? Because a lot of these schools are good schools. It's do you not want this kid to go to a good school? But at the same time, it's he's only going there for football. So it's tough, and I understand why nothing's really been done. And, you know, there's the rumors that at one point they threw out the idea of splitting parochial and public champions playoffs, but then the parochial schools were like, well, if you do that, like, we're going to pull all of our smaller sports from playing public schools, and the public schools kind of need the parochial schools for the smaller sports. There's not a lot of hockey programs out there. It's tough to go play somebody in hockey if you're not allowed to play the parochial schools in hockey. So it's a very tough spot to be in. But at the same time, everyone knows the parochial schools have an advantage. So how do you try to figure that out? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
And kind of on that same thing,
You can take away the blatant recruiting of athletes, which is illegal, but how do you enforce it? The schools are just going to go to the best football players and say, hey, we got a good school, right? Do you want your kid to learn Latin? He's not going to learn that at Green. You should come to Hoban. We'll teach him Latin. Oh, and here's our weight room.
And kind of on that same thing, on that same vein, I have no problem with, kids going to a better school if they're a good football player and if football is their avenue to a better future. Obviously, you get that scholarship, you go and get a free college education. I have
better chance of being trained well, learning, getting exposure. I understand.
On the whole, I have no issue with kids transferring wherever the hell they want to if it gets them that better future. It's the solution, honestly, is I think taking all the restrictions off of movement within the public schools.
Completely opening it up.
And if you let everyone on the same level playing field, then it is what it is. And the places that can build the best programs, that can be the most attractive to, potential football players, to potential college athletes, you just let it happen. Let it fall where they may.
Because, the kids in the Stark County area would 100,000% have a better chance of making it to the next level if they were at Massillon. Mm-hmm. No school in the state does a better job of getting their kids into college, promotes their kids to colleges, has college coaches come in to see the players than Massillon, including the parochial schools. Massillon is the best in the state at doing that. And then from there, it goes on to, training. Are they getting coached in a way that's going to help get them into college? Are they being prepared for college? Are they just going to show up and leave because they weren't ready for it? Are they going to get the strength and conditioning program that it takes to get into college? Are they getting the ACT prep? Yes, obviously there are schools that across the board have better educational numbers than Massillon. But what Massillon provides to their students to get into college, to get their ACT prep, to get them, we do an insanely good job of getting our athletes ready for that. Mm-hmm. So it would benefit anyone in the area it'd benefit anyone anywhere to come to Massillon if they were trying to get into a college. But it's the same thing like with Eds. Why are you going to Eds? Are you taking your kids to Eds because you want him to win a state championship? Or because you want him to get the training, knowledge, preparation, attention that it takes to get to college? They say a good player will be found anywhere. And it's true to an extent. But you have a better chance. If you are that elite of a player, there was a lineman from Revere a couple years ago that went to Ohio State. And, he didn't really get talked about anywhere around us. The state of Ohio didn't really talk about him very much because he played for Revere. The college coaches knew who he was. High school area, no one really knew him. Yep. So, yes, if you are that elite of a player, but what if you're on the cusp of a D3 to D2 or a D2 to D1 or even making it to D3 in general? How do you get your name out there? Well, the schools that have the camps and combines and they have college coaches on a daily basis to see these kids and film, who does a better job of getting on the film and promoting it? It's true that if you truly cared about the kids, you would let them go wherever is most beneficial to them. So maybe the answer is pulling all restrictions altogether?
I mean, that's the solution I can come up with.
Because I don't see how you can actually restrict the parochial schools. They're going to get around it.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you can't restrict them, just don't restrict anyone.
Pretty much. Leave it free reign.
I mean, hell, there's people that want NIL for high schoolers in Ohio. Like, if you're allowed to have NIL, then I don't know how you can have rules for anything.
I think that's a bit much.
I agree. I didn't like the NIL in college. No, hold on. I love NIL as its word. NIL. Name, likeness, image. Love it. You should be able to make money off of your own person.
Yep.
What I hate is that they're paying people ahead of time before they actually earned anything. Now it's a whole recruiting scheme, like, oh, who's going to pay me to come to their college? I think that's bullshit. It's ruining everything. Being able to make money off your own likeness, perfectly fine with that. I think that's perfectly fine. If you were like a national talent at the high school level, if you were LeBron James in high school and a dealership wanted to give you a commercial, I'm not really against that either.
Have no issue with it.
But if it starts turning into like schools paying players, that's when I don't like that, because then it's like, all right, well, which school has the most money to pay? I hate that concept of it. I think if you're a good enough player for like NIL, it shouldn't make a big difference where you. Different schools have different brands, so you're going to have a better opportunity to show yourself off to more people at certain schools than others. But I don't think it should be the school that's paying you. And they're going to say it's not the school that's paying you, but it is. The school is paying you. So I hate that aspect of it. I think if you're a good enough player, you should be able to make money off yourself. Now,
swing it back around to high school, like you kind of mentioned, everybody wants to rag on the Massillon education, but the opportunities are there. I took 3 AP classes, was for the most part in honors classes all throughout my high school career. The only time I wasn't in honors classes is because I didn't do the summer work and I wasn't going to take the F, so I just, went down a peg. Is what it is. But the opportunity for a good education is there at Massillon.
Oh, absolutely.
And a prime example.
The people that want to get a very high education,
they get it.
They get it at Mass. They can, absolutely.
And the prime example I always like to tell people of, exposure at a school versus not is, had a kid in my grade. He was at Massillon all through, middle school, I think his junior year of high school as well. Devontae Oliver. He was probably going to go big D2, small D1 as a left tackle. And for whatever...
He went through your sophomore year.
Through my sophomore year. And for whatever reason, he had a family thing. He had to move to bumfuck Pennsylvania. And, he texted... One of my other friends, stayed in contact with a mutual friend. And he said as soon as he went there, schools just stopped looking at him. Because he was in a bumfuck nowhere cornfield school.
Which is a shame, because I believe he was first team All Pennsylvania as a junior.
Yeah. He was a dude.
But then, just completely fell off the map after that.
Yep.
And, maybe had some issues at school or family issues or whatever.
Don't know, can't speak to it.
Yeah. But it was one of those where if he would have stayed in Massillon, you don't find 6'6", 6'7", 300-pound football players every day.
You can't teach 6'7". So, to put a bow on that conversation, I really have to pee. So we're going to take a quick break and then finish up this episode.
All right.
All right, coming down the home stretch of the podcast. Just to kind of wrap everything up, I think we've talked a lot on what all of this shit means to us, to the city, to the team, everything. Going back to the game a little bit, who would you give MVP of the game to?
Oh boy. That's tough because there were only a couple of like really standout huge plays. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that there's some like unsung hero that just was busy all night. That is hard to tell from my memory of 8 days ago. Like Pringle had the big breakup. He had a couple good tackles as well, like just off of memory. Big Mike's always disruptive. He's messing with that center. Bond blocks the punt, and I'm sure he also probably had some good plays on defense. Lennox scores the only touchdown.
Owens is the reason they have to, defend the entire 53 1/3 of the field.
Yeah, that's one of those things it's tough because he did have a couple plays. I'll give him that. And his presence affects the game greatly. But actual like performance stats, I don't know if I could give it to anybody on offense. I think I have to go defense.
So while you're mulling it over, do you want me to give you mine? Yeah. I put a little bit of thought into this, not too awfully much. I kind of put you on the spot. Didn't mention this beforehand, but I didn't think too much about it either. However, I would have to give it to Big Mike. Okay. Not because he made any particular splash plays. He's made his presence felt on the stat sheet at least a lot more in other games. But when I watched Hoban in those 3 other games I watched, their center snapping the ball was never an issue. They didn't really have any bad snaps. And they had those bad snaps on Thursday night of, 3, 4, 5, however many it was. And even the ones that weren't like that 3rd and 2 where quarterback can't even get a handle on it, has to dive on it, they were just kind of all over the place. And that's not who that center is. He's, obviously he's a starting center at Hoban. He's a good offensive lineman. He's a good center. He can get the operation down. He's fine. But those bad snaps were because Mike is kicking his ass all night. And like I talk about all the time, as a center, I can see it happening. It's not he's not bad at snapping the football. He's trying to hurry up his operation to get hands on Mike as quick as possible. And in that kind of game, when you're playing a defense like us, any sort of negative play is going to throw off an entire drive. You go and you look at the highest level of football at the NFL, you talk about one holding play, 10 yards back. That's a drive killer right there. Everybody's already just packing it up. Punt team's already getting ready. So when you're, when you have those bad snaps like that, when you're looking at 3rd and 2, suddenly turns into 4th and 8, and every other situation it happens, you have those negative plays that you just cannot give up against our defense. That is the game changer right there. And that is the difference maker. So, it's not going to show up on the stat sheet, even though I'm pounding the table for it. But Mike making that center's life hell all night, just taking him to the Thunderdome, having him in that figure 4 leg lock all fucking night, that was the game changer in my opinion right there. So I got to give flowers and my MVP vote to Big Mike.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, that's one of the guys that, without really thinking of what plays he made off the top of my head, I knew that he was affecting the snaps. And just, he's such a disruptive player. I'm sure he was the pain behind a lot of their bad plays. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a Big Mike, Pringle, Bond kind of person for me. I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, McConnell had a interception.
Which, if we can talk about that for a second, that's exactly the kind of play that quarterback has made all year, of double clutching it making his decision almost pre-snap of, I'm going to throw this route. And it doesn't matter how covered the guy is, I'm going to throw this route. And you could see him, he goes to throw it, doesn't like it, tucks it, starts to run, forces it in there, and McConnell's in just the right spot, gets that turnover. Obviously, we didn't do anything with it, but it's stopping that drive. It's killing that momentum. It's, it's getting the ball back, getting our defense a breather, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of anyone else besides big old Michael Wright Jr. up the middle.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that. I mean, I would gladly co-sign Big Mike as MVP. I mean, if you force me to pick somebody else, I would probably go with Pringle, just because I know he had that pass breakup at the end. He had a couple big tackles throughout the game, but I think just his presence and coming back from injury, playing through it, I know he makes a really big difference for our defense. He was Defensive Player of the Year in Ohio, and even though there's only like a play or two that I can think of where he, made a big play, I'm sure he, like everyone else on our defense, was a part of a lot of plays throughout the game. So, without having any stats in front of me, I'm just trying to remember some big plays and stuff. But I'm perfectly fine with Big Mike. And then if I had to pick somebody else, I would just go with Pringle.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of anything else. It's this entire season has been something special. Any memories on field, off field, unsung, anything you want to talk about? Just bring up of what has been a season that's going to go down in Massillon history?
Yeah, there's probably a million things I could talk about. Just leaving it open like that is not specific enough for me to think of anything. I thought we had pretty good attendance at our games this year, especially early in the year. I think it dropped off a little bit once we started playing some of our lesser-known opponents. But I think we started off the year with really good attendance, and it did carry through. But it was notable, how good our attendance was earlier in the year.
Yeah, I mean, Massillon showed out this year, especially obviously the big game against Valdosta. Eds, I thought the stadium was pretty rocking. McKinley, obviously, always, and then through the playoffs, everybody traveled. Everybody, Massillon faithful was there, baby. Outside of the game, what was your favorite memory from all of this state championship week? From the as soon as the game ended down in Columbus up until you woke up, I'm sure like the rest of us, very, very, very hurting last Friday morning.
Yeah, well, I did not wake up Friday morning. I can assure you that. So favorite part of the week outside of the game, after the game, it's just the experience of, the entirety from the parking lot to the tailgate after the game, and then downtown. It was just a huge celebration, a lot of people coming together. I was surprised at how many people showed up at the tailgate after the game, because normally people don't really show up for anything after the game when it comes to tailgating. There were so many people there after the game. So many people people I haven't seen in a while. So just how many people were willing to come together and celebrate this together. It was something special. Walking out of the stadium, walking back to the tailgate, going downtown, and then the amount of people that were downtown was just it was amazing. I really like the fact that the police department put out that memo, like congratulating the team and the community because of, thousands of people were downtown and the police didn't have a single reported incident. Nothing worth mentioning from the entire night. They like thanked the fans for how good they were. And I think it did show. I mean, I don't remember. I didn't see anything. And everybody was just having a great time celebrating. And I think just the different types of people that I saw. I mean, you had like the same people you'd normally see like at the bar after a game or downtown after a game. And then some familiar faces. But then there were some where it's like, I would not have expected you to like come out and celebrate after the game. There were some older people. There were people from out of town. I think it was just a really special experience seeing that many people celebrating together and how excited everyone was. But it was definitely like one group effort. Everyone was in it together having a good time. And it just seemed like one big party. But it did strike me. I was surprised that there were so many people that went to the tailgate after the game. I know that like getting out of the parking lot was a mess, so like people were probably willing to just go hang out for a little while. But how many people I saw tailgating after the game, and then how many people there were downtown, and how late everyone stayed out downtown. It was definitely something special.
Yeah. If I had to boil it down, I'm right there with you. It's the people. The whole week. I can't remember if we talked about it before, or if I just played the song a couple years back when Massillon was just last in the state championship of, my dad's midget story back in the day of when he was on a flag football team. They were going into the championship game and playing this team that they'd never beaten before, and they just all sat around drinking a bottle of Wild Irish Rose and just playing on repeat because they had the 45 of it. That's a record for our younger listeners of Todd Rundgren's Just One Victory. And they go out there and beat him. So I was just blaring that all week and just trying to get in the mindset of, what is it going to feel like when we win? And, not trying to get your hopes up, but it's like, I know what it's like to lose. And it's like, what is that feeling going to be when we win the game? And in that moment when, we get that big fourth down stop, and it's like you look around and just everybody's fucking crying. And then you go downtown, or nobody wants to leave after the game. And the entire stadium sits and watches the trophy ceremony. And like you said, you get back to the tailgate, and I didn't see a lot of people there because I ran off to find my dad and get the biggest fucking hug from him I ever got. And his one buddy brought the champagne, and we're passing around and pour a bit for everyone, and I bring that back to the tailgate, and we're just passing around the champagne bottle. And you go downtown, and it's just, you see all these people that you don't know them, or you haven't seen them in years, and you're just giving these big-ass hugs to because it means just as much to them as it does to you. Or even riding downtown in the bus and hanging out the side window holding the flag, and not the window, the door holding the flag, and fucking Tyler's up on the roof just waving the big-ass flags around, and you get to the bars, and like you said, nobody wanted the moment to end. And I guess that's that's the theme of this episode, I guess, is just like the people, the community, of how special this is to everyone, how special it's going to be for the rest of everyone's lives. And what that means to everyone, I hope this is a feeling that nobody ever forgets.
Yeah, it was definitely something special, something I'll remember forever, and I'm sure the entire town will. And I'm just glad that everybody was able to embrace it and celebrate it and there weren't any issues, and the town itself kind of understands what was going on, and they're willing to shut down downtown after the big games, and they do the parades, a second parade now. The town itself is willing to do that. So I'm just glad to be from here, and I'm glad that there's 30,000 other people that still reside here, and hundreds of thousands of people that came from here before me, and many of which are still willing to embrace it and come back and celebrate.
Yeah. So with that, I got nothing else, brother. You got anything?
No.
So I guess we'll just send it off. Go Tigers. We're fucking state champions, baby.
Go Tigers.
Sun to rise and shine, shine and still give us the wind. Can you hear me? The sound